I've got my big cup of coffee here to start. So again, if you have questions, please put your questions here, then I'll get started. Thanks. So I'm off to Brazil tonight to present in Sao Paulo on my humble thoughts on the future of education. And I want to thank all of you for helping me out with that, because I sent out a vlog message about a week ago asking for your thoughts, and you all helped me crowdsource it, and you let me know what the problems are with education, and that became an instrumental part of my presentation. So thank you very much. And a couple of the interesting comments I had, and again, if you have questions, please type them here. But people were saying, my students were saying, the future of education, could involve big companies creating their own educational programs internally. And it's interesting because Wrigley, who I work with, sent me an article yesterday stating that Google does not require you to have a degree anymore to get a job there. Same thing with Apple. Same thing with Bank of America. Same thing with IBM, of all companies. IBM's been around forever. And so you don't need a degree anymore to get into a lot of great companies. You can just learn stuff online. You can always retool. And again, if you have any questions, please answer them here, because this is filler here, what I'm doing. No, I'm just kidding. I have a little script I want to say to you anyway. But again, please type in your questions. Good morning, Willem. Good morning, Fujimori-san. Please enter your questions here so I can answer them for you. But if you ever want to just change careers, it's a lot easier than you think. You can just go online and take a course, not just from Udemy, but from other places too. There's a great place called masterclass.com, where you can learn how to be an amazing musician from scratch. You can learn how to be a director from Ron Howard. You can learn how to be a basketball player as well from the best basketball players out there. Okay, so I've got a question here. And please keep them coming here, and ask them any questions as you want. Thank you. So enter them in now. So the first question we have here is from Fujimori-san. Fujimori, I want to improve my financial intelligence. The best advice I can give for that is, when you study accounting, or I probably lost a couple people there when I said the word accounting, or finance, make sure that you understand finance and accounting, and don't memorize it. I got a D the first time I took accounting. I'm fully transparent as always. I got a D. I was at McGill University. I remember it was, I think it was spring of 1991, and I was on vacation in Canada, and we had to check over a service called MARS, McGill Automated Registration Service, to get our grades in. And I got a D. I thought my life was over that summer. And so, but I learned the hard way. And you can learn from people that have made mistakes, as well as people that have done okay, whatever, done all right. Just don't memorize accounting and finance, please. Just understand it. And once you understand it, then it is easy. And it's actually a lot of fun. It's like a puzzle. It's like a game. So that's what I recommend in terms of how to improve your financial intelligence. I also have a course called Introduction to Finance Accounting, Valuation and Modeling, where I go over how to understand finance and accounting in a simple way, with animations, with how the right side of the balance sheet has to equal the left side, and that's what I call a balance sheet, that sort of thing. So try to visualize and understand finance and accounting, and I promise you that that you'll enjoy it more. Imagine that, enjoying accounting and finance, coming from a guy who got a D in accounting. Okay, great. So again, if you have questions, please enter them here. The next question I've got here is, what will you need to do if a recruiter considers me as a high turnover for the job? That's a great question. So I changed jobs a lot. I kept searching for my passion, my purpose over the years. I went from working on Wall Street at Goldman to a couple of hedge funds to my own companies to whatever. And I remember it got kind of problematic at one point when I was interviewing. The interviewers were smart. I mean, they liked me and they knew I was qualified, but at the same time they said, Chris, it looks like every 2 years or 1 year, whatever, you switch jobs. Please provide me with confidence in that you're going to stay with us after we train you and all that. And I remember I didn't really have a good answer for that. And so here's what I recommend, especially when you're younger and you're first starting out. And I don't know what everyone's career level is here on this call, but try to stay at least 2 years at one job. Okay. And If you stay for less than a year, make sure it overlaps with the next year, and I'll explain what that means and why. Let's say that you join a company in October of this year and you hate your job by December. Try to tough it out for a couple more months, because on your LinkedIn profile, I don't think you list months. Same thing with your resume, just list the years. So you would write 2017 or 2018 to 2019 for that job. And it looks like it might be, I don't know, more than a couple of months. I'm not telling you to be disingenuous or unethical. It's just a lot of times you don't have to list the month. So just try to stick it out for at least a year or two if you can, or more. And for those of you that want to go to MBA school, you have to work 4 years first. And you got to do at least 4 years at one company, or do 2 and 2 this way. In England, that's not polite. 2 and 2. That's like my little sister used to say, "Peace, Chris, this is your half," except she'd put the other finger down. Okay. So hopefully that answers your question. Again, if you have questions, please enter them here. And this webcast will go on forever, all day long, until we have no more questions. So again, just enter your questions here. If I've already answered your question, you have another one, then please just enter it in here as well. Thank you. All right. So I guess I'll talk about, do you need an MBA? I get that question a lot. And again, if you have questions, please enter them here. So I only recommend doing an MBA if you want to change careers and you were unsuccessful trying to change careers by networking. And I've talked a lot about networking in the past, and I won't bore you with the details, but you can always go to my website and get my 200-page networking book for free. My web address is harounventures.com. And if you try to change careers by networking, then you don't need the MBA. If you try your best and you cannot get that career change by networking, then what you have to do is you have to go back to business school, right? Or do another degree. And I like short degrees, 1 or 2 year degrees max. The problem with undergraduate schools is you have 4 years of education, which is way too long. Each week has on average 13 hours of class. Somehow I managed to miss a bunch of them. I don't know why. But you can really compress entire undergraduate education into 2 years if you wanted to. And so the only reason to go back to school or to get an education or a degree certification is if you cannot get a job without networking. And I think that my children are going to be the last generation that feels that they have to get a degree. I think in the future, you'll just learn online at home, and there will be some social interaction in classrooms as well. But I don't think spending 4 years away at undergraduate school makes a lot of sense. And it's so interesting as I watch my kids consume media, because they are the YouTube generation. They were born not really watching TV, right? YouTube is all they care about. And it's a good thing, because YouTubers, or a lot of vloggers, I won't speak for myself, although I do vlog, but a lot of vloggers are very positive people. And older people like me, my parents and my friends, we watch the news, and the news is just negative news. But if you watch YouTube for all of your content, like my kids do, you're kind of insulated from all the negative news out there in the world, and you're a more positive person. And so you can learn any new skills that you want to online. And certainly the next generation, this is exactly what they're going to be doing. But I think that getting into hard schools like Harvard and Stanford, I got rejected by those guys. I think it's going to be harder in the future, because a lot of people think I don't need to get an education. But if I had this name, it might help, whatever, or there's some prestige factor, that sort of thing. So again, if you're just joining us, welcome. Please enter in all your questions here, and we will end the webcast when there's no more questions. So I've got another question here from Fujimori. I've read Emotional Intelligence book recently. I think it's a very important thing. I'm going to ask a question. How can you control your own emotions, and how do you improve your emotions? That's a great question, Fujimori-san. The most successful people in business are incredibly unemotional. And I've worked for a lot of billionaires in the past at various hedge funds and other firms. And I found that a lot of these people I've worked for are very successful because they're unemotional. It's like borderline Asperger's syndrome, I think maybe. Basically, what that means is they don't get too happy when things go well. There's not much high-fiving around the office when things go amazingly well. And there's also no panic on their part when things don't go well. And so if you can try to keep your emotions in check in business, I think you'll be very successful, because if you think about investing, half of investing is psychology. People usually buy stocks or other investments when they're going up a lot, which is idiotic, because Warren Buffett said you want to be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. And there's that term which is kind of makes me uncomfortable saying it, but you got to buy stocks or investments when there's blood in the streets. When everybody else is worrying, everybody panicking, that's the best time to buy. And try to be unemotional that way too. And when I started one of my first companies out here in the Bay Area, I was really stressed out. And when I came home from work, I kind of meditated and convinced myself that when I touch the doorknob at the front of my house, the second I touch it and turn it, all of my business stuff is left outdoors. Kind of like Fred Flintstone saying, Wilma, I'm dating myself there. But the reason that I did that, and I tried to condition myself to not think about work when I got home, was because it wasn't fair for my children. I remember I'd get home and Matthew and Andrew, Dylan wasn't born then, they'd say, Daddy, did you have a good day at work? And if I said yes, then they'd say, yay, can we play baseball in the backyard? And if I didn't say yes, they would just go, and then they'd turn and walk away. And so I learned to condition myself to leave your stress out of your house. Your house is a place of love. It's your own sanctuary. So just try not to be emotional about business. And if you're a contrarian in life and you do the opposite of what everybody does in most situations, you'll be unbelievably successful, really successful, because stock investing is emotions. That's half of it. Just buy when everyone else is uncomfortable. And when you buy your first house, or horse if you want to gallop, you buy your first house, I'm going to give you some advice here, and please make sure that you don't push yourself too hard financially. But when you buy your first house, if it does not feel uncomfortable, at least a little bit, then you're not buying a big enough piece of property or a big enough house or apartment. Ask your parents about that. You kind of want to stretch yourself, but not too much. Okay. There's a lot of emotions as well when it comes to real estate. And okay, let me read the next question here. And again, if you have questions, please write them here. Robin, how are you? What is your view on a big company versus a small one? What do you think? Where is it better to work? That's a great question. I've worked in both. So when you work in a big company, the bureaucracy is going to drive you crazy. Okay. There's a lot of red tape, a lot of politics, a lot of people that don't care about your career or the success of the company. They just care about their own progression throughout the company. And so you're going to learn what not to do as well as what to do when you work at big companies and small companies. And I think that when you're first starting out of undergrad or out of high school, whatever, your first real big job, I think it should be at a big company if you can, because you're going to learn a lot. There's many different departments. You can transfer from one department to the other if you hate what you're doing, which is what I did. I started out at an Accenture in Ottawa, and I was able to transfer from a group called Process to Technology, and then I transferred to the Toronto office and went overseas, which was fun. But I made mistakes, but I had fun. I got to move around a lot as well. It was a big company, it was very regimented, but it drove me crazy. Every big company I've worked at, it drove me crazy, just given the politics and the bureaucracy. But you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot what to do and what not to do. And hopefully you have a couple different managers at a big company over time, because you can learn their best practices, how to manage people or how to not manage people. You can sit down and do informational meetings with tons of people in different departments and network a lot and just learn about different business departments. And if you, let me transition now to a smaller company. If you work at a smaller company, a couple things. Number one, before you join that company, please hire a lawyer and get that lawyer to review your employment contract that you signed or are about to sign. Because what happens is a lot of times in smaller companies, you're given equity, meaning you're given part ownership of the company if you stay over time. But the lawyer who wrote the paperwork that you're signing, okay, that your boss at the small company, the lawyer doesn't care about you. I'm not trying to be cold. The lawyer is doing one thing, which is protecting the person that's paying them, which is the boss of your company. And so that employment contract that you're going to sign is very biased. And there's no shame in doing this, okay? Hire your own lawyer. Pardon me. Hire your own lawyer. take a look at the paperwork before you sign it. It'll cost you a couple $100. It's a good investment, please. And you can go to legalzoom.com and get a lawyer there to read it over. It'll cost you $30 there. And if you're outside of the US, you have to find a lawyer elsewhere. But it's a very wise investment so you can protect yourself and your family. I've seen horror stories, man, where people, they're supposed to own half the company, but they signed a stupid contract and didn't hire a lawyer because they were cheap. And because of that, they lost the company. They lost their ownership in the company. They got fired. They have nothing. So please hire a lawyer to review that contract before you sign it when you're at a smaller, medium-sized company. Now, if you're just joining us, we're comparing small companies to big ones, which ones to work at. We already talked about big. In terms of small, you're going to be given a lot more autonomy, a lot more responsibilities early on. So don't go to a small company unless you're ready. Okay, unless you're ready to take on a lot of responsibility, because you're given enough rope sometimes to hang yourself. So just make sure that you're ready. Okay, sign that employment contract as well. One last thing I want to say about working for a big versus a small company, and again, please type your questions in here. The thing about companies is that if the founder is still there running the company, then the company kind of operates logically. Okay, if the founder leaves the company is no longer logical, and it's a disaster. And I'll explain why. If you're working at a company where the founder is still there, the founder is so passionate and she or he doesn't give a damn about politics. This person just wants to grow the company, right? And what happens is when they leave, innovation leaves with them, okay? And in 99% of situations, 99, when a founder leaves a company, especially a technology company, it's a terrible investment after that, because they don't care about innovation anymore. All they care about is, and when I say they, it's management, is climbing the corporate ladder. And so if you work for a big old company, like Packard, for example, where the founder is no longer there, obviously, what happens is, if you're a senior executive, you're focused on one thing, which is climbing that ladder so you can get paid more. And if you're climbing that ladder as a senior executive and you try to innovate, try to create a new product for the company, right? HP's logo used to be invent, ironic. If you try to innovate and you fail, you're done. You're no longer climbing that corporate ladder anymore. If you're successful with an innovation at a big company like that, you're not going to get paid that much anyway. So the risk reward is not that great. The incentive is to go and join a startup. And so I've had friends that have been at HP for more than 20 years. And I had one good friend who called me years ago. He said, Chris, I want to leave HP and I need your help. And I said, dude, I'm here for you. Whatever you need. What have you learned? What can we put on your resume? And he said, well, you know what? The only thing I've really learned is how to navigate Hewlett-Packard politics. And that's not a portable skill. And so if you want to learn and you're first starting out, it's okay to go to a big company, but make sure that the founder is still there if it's a tech company. Because again, when a founder leaves a company, it goes into terminal decline in tech. And there are exceptions, okay? There are exceptions. I'd be more than happy to talk about that if anybody wants to drill down or double click on that. Double click means I'm old, okay? All right. My kids didn't know what that means. What is double click? They don't do that. It's just they click once. Okay. Anyway, again, if you have questions here, please let me know. Robin, that was as always a fantastic question. Thank you. And if Fujimura-san, if you still have more questions, please ask them, and I will answer all questions until there's no more questions. Then we'll end the webcast. So please keep them coming. Okay, great. Next question is, I've reached out to 2 recruiters from the same staffing company for an analyst position that only requires a high school diploma. But after discussing on compensation, I have not heard back from them. Okay. So it sounds like you might have given a value that's too high. So this is a tough one, and I usually give a range, okay? But you can go to glassdoor.com, okay, glassdoor.com, and you can find out how much people get paid at that company you're interviewing for, okay? Or you can find out a range of what you might get paid at companies similar to that one if that company is not listed on Glassdoor. And that will provide you with a comfort level for understanding what to say when somebody asks you in an interview, how much money are you expecting to make? And never, ever bring up compensation in an interview, ever, 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 okay? Until the very end. right? In the very final interview, they should bring it up. If not, then you can ask. Okay, you don't want them to think you're only motivated by money, and I hope you're not. I hope everyone here is motivated by passion and just trying to make the world a better place and enjoying what you do. So when they ask you that question, how much are you, expecting to make? What you can do is you can give a range. Okay, and again, you can find it from Glassdoor.com or other sources or competitors of that company you're interviewing with. And if you're working for a company right now and you interview at another company, this is going to sound crazy, but I don't want you to leave that company you're currently at for the same job unless it's 2 times higher. Okay, compensation. And don't forget that should also encompass all the benefits you get as well, right? Maybe you get life insurance or dental or whatever it is. Don't leave unless it's materially higher. And if a headhunter calls you, I don't care how loyal you are to somebody else. I want you to take that meeting. Because when the economy turns, and the economy is always cyclical, they're not going to care about you, right? At that company you're working at. I mean, maybe they'll care about you a bit, whatever, but you are expendable. Everybody is. So if you get called by a headhunter, always take that meeting. Always, always, always. Okay. And you can be discreet about it, right? I have a lot of friends that have 2 cell phones. One is their work phone. The other one is their personal, and they look the same. And they pull out their personal one at work if they're in an office and they get a call from a headhunter. It's a bit of an investment, but it's worth it if you're going to make a lot more and leave anyway. Take every single meeting you get with everybody, please. Always have a plan B. Always, always, always. And I want you all to start your own companies on the side too when you're working for somebody else. Okay, I want you to do that because I don't think that we were meant to work for somebody else our whole lives. And I'm going to swear right now, and I'm sorry, I hardly ever swear, but there's nothing worse than spending the rest of your life working for somebody else and being someone else's bitch. And I know a lot of us are frustrated at work, and that's okay. That's a good thing. It's a good thing because frustration pushes you to get outside your comfort zone and change it. Change your job, change your perception. And when you work for somebody else, I want you to dedicate 70% of your time up here when you're at work, working for that person. And the other 30% up here, I want you to think about your own company, okay? And I want you to start your own company while you work for somebody else, okay? Talk to a lawyer first if you sign contracts, whatever. And I'm not telling you to be unethical, but I do care. And I think you'll be happier if you work for yourself. And I know it's hard, and you only have to be right in business once. And everybody that's ever amounted to anything in business, anybody that's been incredibly successful has been rejected more times than you and I combined. Anybody that's successful in any area in life. And, Michael Jordan, who I love this guy, he was cut from his high school basketball team, or he didn't make it, whatever. And he had this quote. He said that I failed over and over and over again. That's why I'm successful. And J.K. Rowling, who's awesome, she hated her job as a secretary. She hated it. And she was rejected more than 30 times by the top publishers in the world, but she kept trying. And if she wasn't fine with failure, we wouldn't know what Harry Potter is. Okay, so, and I encourage my kids and all my students as well, just take risks. Failure is cool, man. Failure is not shameful. Anybody that's ever been successful in life has failed. So fail over and over and over again. Please keep trying. I promise you that you'll be successful over time. Okay, I lost a couple of people there. So obviously that was a too long-winded answer. So if you have questions, please type them in here. Next question is, okay, is it okay to apply for many positions from different companies at one? Okay, if you're applying to work at a company, say you're at company X now and you want to work at company Y, only send your resume to one department at company Y, because if they receive it at many departments, then they'll think that there's a focus issue. So just make sure it's only one department. And if that did not answer your question, please let me know. Okay. What do you do when a recruiter gives me or her their business card? Okay, this is a great question. So I used to work in Japan, and I've worked overseas in many countries, and business cards are very sacred in many places. And so when somebody gives you a business card, if you're not sure what to do, and I'm going to use my daily vitamins as an example, when somebody gives you a business card, I want you to take it like this if you're not sure what to do, and look down at it for about 5 or 10 seconds, okay? And then you put it on the table on top of your wallet or your business card holder or right by your drink, okay? Put it there nicely. And don't ever write on it. Don't ever fold it. Don't ever put it in your pocket, because this thing is sacred in a lot of cultures, not vitamins, but business cards, because it represents them. Okay. And you'll see that, like when I was in Japan, for example, when you extend business cards, it's a cultural thing. You take it and you say, Hajime mashite. And if you're doing business in other countries, just do a Google search on business card exchanges, because the other culture will really respect it. If you try to, I always play what's called a gaijin card. They knew I couldn't speak Japanese well at all, really, but they respected the fact that I tried. So just do that. And when I'm sitting down and I get a bunch of business cards, this is a good trick. You'll like this one. And Fujimori-san, if I'm wrong about the business card thing in Japan, please let me know. But when I'm in a meeting and there's a lot of people meeting with me, I'm so bad remembering names. I'm the worst ever, eh? What I do is when I get all their business cards, I lay them down on the table in front of me, just really neatly, side by side, quickly, in order of where these people are sitting, okay? So if there's 3 people in front of me, I'll put one there, one there, one there. And then what I can do is when I reach down to get my water on the table, I'll look to see their names. And because forgetting names is, oh my God, it's the worst ever. And here's a trick for you if you don't remember names, okay? And this is a little off topic, sorry, but Christine and I, my wife and I, Christine, she has the same name as me. I'm Chris, she's Christine. So nobody forgets our name, right? Which is too bad because I forget everyone's name. So we'll go to parties. And if I'm talking to somebody and I don't remember their name and Christine's beside me, what I'll do is I'll go like this. And Christine will then introduce herself. And by the end of the night, my neck is really red. And anyway, so that's what you do. And in terms of other cross-cultural greetings, just make sure you do your research before meeting with people in different countries. There's little things like when I worked in Japan, what I would do is I'd always sit close to the door in boardroom meetings, because in ancient times, this is out there, but I love it. In ancient times, the first person to get offed by a samurai soldier is the person sitting closest to the door. And so I would always sit there out of respect, and people appreciated it. Also, when I would go out to dinner in Japan and in many different cultures and you toast, I always go lowest down, okay? Because you'll see if you ever go out to meetings in certain countries or certain restaurants, it's fascinating. The more junior the person, lower down they toast on that toast, right? And by the way, this is tradition. I have to show this cup every week. It says, I survived another meeting that could have been an email. Okay, I got that from my wife, Christine, who works at IBM. And one last thing I'll say about business in Japan, for example. When I take a taxi with Japanese executives in Japan, and a lot of cultures are similar, I actually sit in the front. And the reason I do that is because if you get into a car accident, this is just a cultural thing, the first person to pass away is the person in the front. The second person to pass away is this person behind the passenger front seat. And the last person is behind the driver. Okay, it's just cushion. It's like when you fly first class, the first people that, I'm not going there. All right, so hopefully that answered your question about business cards. And by the way, a lot of people are cheap when it comes to business cards. Don't ever buy the ones you can print on a printer at home. I used to do that. Don't do that. I want you to go to a website called moo.com, M-O-O, moo.com, and buy thicker business cards, right? They're expensive. They're like 25 cents each. And I used to hate giving them out to people that weren't as important to me, because I was like, damn, that's 25 cents. but they're thicker and they make you look really good. Okay. And if you're doing business in another country, make them double-sided, English on one side, the other English on the other side. Okay. And when I go to China, you see that a lot. You can also, there are really, really cool business cards that I talked about in my presentation course, which are actually USB drives. They're really thin. Okay, and there are really cool different examples of that. And then Wrigley, what we can do is, Wrigley works with me. When we write up today's webcast, we'll put a bunch of examples at this point. And when you go to the description field of this webcast, you'll be able to go by time and click on questions. We'll include it there. Sorry for rambling. Okay. All right. Next question. Again, if you have questions, please write them down here. Okay. Next one is from Haroun. I love questions from you, Haroun, because your first name rhymes with my last name. Okay. Hi, Chris. How do some companies outperform others, provided that they have a similar business model? Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. So if the founder is still at a company, if company A has a founder still there and company B does not, and they look similar, this one will always win because the founder is passionate about what she or he does. Okay. They want to change the world. That's number one. Number two, the management team that gets you most excited about buying their products when they present, they're winners usually. Okay. And speaking of winners, there's a great book if you want to learn about sales from the CEO of a great German software company called SAP. And the name of this book is The Winner's Dream. Okay. Listen to the Audible version. It's by Bill McDermott, who's the best CEO salesperson I've ever met in my life. And when you meet with CEOs or management teams, make sure that you get excited about their product, right? Get really excited about it. Anyway, that's what I would say. Management's first. Okay. After you analyze the management team, then you can look at the business model, but don't ever waste your time analyzing any company ever if you don't look at the management team first. And the problem with business school is business school doesn't teach us to look at the management team first. And if you're happy with the management team, then do your rest of your research. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Okay. Ideas are commodities, but execution is not. Always look at the management team first. Then after that, you can look at, Porter 5 Forces model, barriers to entry, and all that stuff. And the best place to do research on a company, and I released a vlog this past week called "Don't Trust Them." Please watch that one, okay, Haroun? Because in that vlog, I basically explain how to do your own research as well. Okay, and basically what you can do is you can read the annual report for that company, their website, and I provide a bunch of other stuff. Just watch that vlog. Pardon me, if you want, just to get more ideas. I didn't have time to make my juice this week, so I just bought these cold pressed things. Okay. Okay, great. And if I did not answer your question, please let me know. And again, enter in your questions here. When there's no more questions, I'll end the webcast. Thanks. So please enter your questions here. Okay. Next up, Tiger. Cassandra, how are you? Cassandra's been on a couple times before, and Tiger is the name of Tiger. Cassandra, you got to write down why Tiger. I'm really curious. Just write it here in the comments. Thanks. Okay, Cassandra's got a question. Hi, Chris. You always mention that we should not work for others. Yes. Well, initially you can to learn. How can you find out what the world needs? What company to open? Oh, I love that. You're basically asking, how do you find your passion? So the world needs what you're most passionate about. Okay. And I know that's a bizarre way to answer the question. But I think that anybody that's ever managed to do anything in business that's been very successful has been passionate about what they do. And I'll give you some examples. So Bill Gates in the mid 1970s or 1976 or 77, when he founded Microsoft, his mission statement, he was so passionate about this. He said, I want to put a computer on every desk and in every home. And he was so passionate about that. And before that time, what happened was the CEOs of two great companies, IBM and Digital DEC, which was bought by Compaq, which was bought by HP. The CEOs of those two companies said, there's probably only a demand for, I don't know, maybe 5 computers in the world. Gates didn't give a damn. Bill Gates was so passionate about what he does. And I've met with him a number of times. Actually, he rocks like this when he answers questions. It's interesting. Sorry. I'll stop rocking because I'm not a rock star like him. But whatever you're most passionate about, Cassandra, Tiger, that's what you got to do. Okay. Just invent a company that you're most passionate about. Okay. Mark Benioff, who runs the biggest software company here in San Francisco called Salesforce.com. He's always been extraordinarily passionate about cloud computing. Okay. Don't ever create a business just to make money. Otherwise it'll fail. If you chase money, you'll lose your money and your dreams. If you chase your dreams, not only will your dreams come true over time if you're happy with failure, but the money will come accidentally. So just start a company that you're most passionate about. Mark Twain had that epic quote. He said that The two most important days in your life are number one, the day you're born, and number two, the day you find out why. So keep searching for your passion and keep taking online courses. And I'm not going to talk about my stuff, but if you've always been curious about computer programming, take courses from Rob Percival online on Udemy or other places as well. You know, I'm taking a course now from this website called Masterclass. Oh, you got to check it out. Okay, masterclass.com. And I want to learn about directing. And so I'm taking a course by Ron Howard, right? He was on that TV show Happy Days. I'm dating myself there, but he's an amazing director. I think he directed Solo as well, just a bunch of great movies, whatever. And I'm curious about music too. And you know, Hans Zimmer, who wrote the music for Gladiator, Inception, as well as Interstellar and other great movies, Batman. He has a course, and I'm taking it now. I'm learning how to write music, and it doesn't matter what age you are, right? It doesn't matter if you're 48 or younger or older, okay? Because there has to be a 50-year-old rock star one day that starts when they're 50. It's going to happen, I promise you. And in 1950, the average life expectancy was 26 years younger than it is today. So you know what? You're 26 years younger now than you were before. Okay, so if you're 48, you're not actually. You're 22. Start over. And the average age for somebody starting a company in America, for example, is over 50. And I believe, and I'm positive, I'm convinced that the person that's going to live to be 150 is alive today. So start over. Keep starting over until you find your passion. How do you know? Because you'll get out of bed one day and you won't tell yourself, I'm going to work. I'm doing my passion, or this will happen. And this happens to me sometimes. I wake up early, and when I used to wake up early, I'd look at the clock and I'm like, oh, great, I have 5 more hours of sleep or whatever. But now when I do it, I look at my clock and it's early. I'm like, yes, I'm getting up now. Okay. Something will get you out of bed, get you excited. So keep searching because you will find it eventually. And the best way to change careers or to understand what your passion is just take online courses and look. As much as I love Udemy, there are other places too. You know, you can also use like Masterclass. Okay, and that's for really high end stuff by people that teach that are way better than I am. Okay, all right. So sorry, that was just the wind trying to close the door there. Okay. So, and if you have follow-up questions, please let me know here. And Cassandra, I love that question. So Cassandra, who has Tiger here, she's telling us why she uses the name Tiger. So I'm going to read it for all of you because Cassandra's been with us for 7 weeks now, and I love her questions. She said that I like the Japanese culture, so do I. So when I was pregnant 11 years ago, I wanted a boy, and I got a girl. So Tora, her name is Tora, tiger in Japanese. Oh, I didn't know that. Fascinating. Haranga was a great shogun. Tora took over my Google account. Oh, I love it. That's awesome. Actually, the name of my iPad and other things, my kids have done it. My iPad, whenever I try to airplay something to it, it says "Baby Daddy's iPad." And my son did that. Oh, the worst was this. On Siri, my son, he created his own name, and I was in front of tons of people. And I said, hey Siri, what time is it? Something like that. And Siri said, well, rock star Andrew, ruler of the world. That's my son's name. The time is this, whatever. It's kind of fun. Kids, eh? That's a great story. Tora, oh, I love it. I had no idea. Thank you for that. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, great. And if you have follow-up questions, please let me know again. I'm going to keep answering questions until nobody has any more questions. So Cassandra, ask another question too, please. Okay, and Willem, you killed it last week, dude. You were the guy that nailed the McLovin one, right? So Willem, I'm going to do a little shout out for you. That's for you, and you got to ask a question because you got it right last week. Okay. Hi, I'm 7.5. All right. So next question I've got is, I did find the salary range from Glassdoor for the position, but the entry level for financial analyst compensation is different for the entry level analyst position. Okay, they're different. Okay, so what you do is go to similar companies on Glassdoor.com, and that should help you out understand the range. And I think, but I might be wrong. I think maybe LinkedIn does that too now. You might be able to find it on LinkedIn. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. That's what I would say. Or talk to friends that work in the industry, or I don't know, ask your parents. They probably know somebody in that industry as well. That sort of thing. All right. So any questions, please type them here, and I will answer them again. When there's no more questions, I will end the call. That wasn't a threat. All right, Robin. All right, Robin's got another question here. Thank you. So Robin says, when you start a company, what are the most important skills you need, except for passion for the topic of the company? Okay. And where should you put the focus as the founder? Okay. So I think the most important skill is, and I know I'm not allowed to say passion here, I get it. I respect that, is sales skills. Think about it. The best CEOs and the best entrepreneurs on the planet are great salespeople. That's what they are. Okay. So just learn how to sell. Okay. Want me to teach you how to sell? So, and I'll post a vlog about this in a couple of days, but I'm going to give you 5 or 6 tips on how to sell anything. Okay. Not anything, a lot of things. Number 1, this one's important. This is the hardest one to understand. Okay. When you think, and I'm talking to myself here because I'm going to be rude. When you think you've made the sale or piqued their interest, then shut up, Chris. Okay. Why? Because the second you see that they're kind of interested, stop talking. Otherwise, what happens is you sell past the close, and they'll ask themselves a question. Gosh, I really like this product, but he kept selling it. Am I missing something? Why am I so lucky to be given this opportunity? Now I'm worried. I'm not interested anymore. Okay, so stop talking once you think they're interested. Okay, and that works psychology-wise and relationships. And I'm not going there. I'm not giving dating advice. I'm the worst. Business advice only, please. Okay, so once you sense that the business person is interested, you stop talking. Number 2, keep selling until you hear the word no. Okay, but if they're interested, stop talking, obviously. But if you're not sure, keep selling. Okay, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, and then keep telling yourself, all I heard was not no. All I heard was not no. All I heard was not no. You know, you can be relentless like a pit bull on a pork chop. Somebody used to say. So just be relentless. Another thing is this, number 3, we talked about business cards earlier, etc. Relationships are more important than product knowledge. Get to know this person very well, okay, before starting talking about business, or at least get to know where they're from, their interests, that sort of thing. Because people like doing business. I'm not telling you to be, insincere, but people like doing business with people that they like, that they kind of understand. Whenever, and sports is great boardroom talk, by the way, and everybody on this call loves one type of sport or traveling. And this is what I do. I love baseball so much. What I do is when I go to meetings, and I'm sincere about it, I'm passionate about it, it lights me up. If I meet with somebody from Baltimore, for example, which is on the East Coast of the United States, I'll talk about Cal Ripken, who is the quintessential team player. If I meet somebody from New York, first of all, I'll ask, are you a Yankees fan or a Mets fan? Because I don't want to insult them. Then I'll talk about, World Series in the years that those two teams won the World Series. If I meet somebody from Barcelona, I'll explain how much I love Gaudi or La Rambla, or just the beautiful culture and artistic stuff in that city, that sort of thing. So find something in common first. It could be a love of sports, and sports is easy, right? Because let's say Liverpool wins, I don't know, some big football match. You can mention that. So sports is an easy thing to bond over, and travel as well. Okay, so that's what I'd say. That's what I'd say. Bond first before you discuss business. And President Bush Sr., meaning Bush from the early 90s, I had a friend that worked for him, not Bush Jr., Bush Sr. And I always ask, whenever I meet somebody successful or somebody knows somebody successful, tell me a positive thing about the person. And what President Bush Sr. would always do is he would treat celebrities like people, and he would treat people like celebrities. Okay, so anyway, just bonding on different levels is important. So that's what I'd say is incredibly important, Robin, when it comes to starting a company, is just sales, right, and bonding. And there are a couple of business skills that are not common sense. You have to learn. It's kind of like learning a language. You got to learn if you want to communicate. And that skill is accounting and finance. And you got to learn the basics. Okay. It's not intuitive. You got to learn the basics. And Robin, you can outsource everything in your company to people that know it better than you do. And I don't know if you're good at accounting, whatever, but if you're not, outsource it. Okay. But make sure you understand the numbers. Okay. Understand at high level. Okay. And also, make sure that you understand how to give a good, impactful presentation as well. And these are all skills that aren't taught in school, unfortunately. How to sell, how to give a great presentation, that sort of thing. And just keep following up, Robin. And when you go to these meetings, make sure that you offer something to them as well. I'm not saying like a bribe or something, but find out their background. And this goes for anybody on this call that's interviewing for a job or is meeting with a potential person you want to sell something to. Do your research before the meeting and walk into that meeting, get to know them first, and offer them something that can help their career. So if you're a salesperson and they represent, I don't know, New York City or the financial district, when you go to that meeting, you can say, I know somebody that works for the CTO of Goldman Sachs or whatever it is. And I'd be happy to introduce you to them if that's helpful. Imagine that, man. You walk into a meeting, right, with somebody that you want to work for or somebody you want as a customer, and you introduce them to somebody that can help make their career go to the next level. That's what business is all about. It's give and take. If you're a giver, I promise you, you will receive in the long run. So just walk in every meeting knowing that you want to help them get to the next level in their career. And I promise you, you will get what you want out of that meeting if you do that. And the reason it works is because nobody does that. Nobody does that. Okay. Great. And that was kind of a long-winded answer, Robin. And if you guys have questions, please write them down here, because when there's more questions, I'm going to end this call. That wasn't a threat. I say it with love in my heart. Okay. Next question I've got is, should you impress the recruiter by calling him or her when you found his or her phone number on LinkedIn or from the business card? So if you want to work for somebody and you've never called them before, don't call them. Just reach out to them over LinkedIn. You can call them if they give you their business card and they say, call me sometime or whatever. But make sure you've met that person first before calling them. Now, if it's somebody that works in human resources, or if it's a headhunter or a recruiter, that's fine to call them, right? Just call the main number and then ask to be transferred. And here's a little trick for you. And I think many people know this, but I have a good friend that works for Peter Thiel right now. And he's worked for Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel's a big investor here. And he's worked there for years. Actually, the guy's name is Ajay Royan. And Ajay, smart guy, he worked at Deloitte in Canada. He went to Yale. He's from same hometown as me in Canada. And what Ajay did was he wanted to get a job, and he couldn't get a job anywhere. And he kept trying. So here's what he did. He looked to find phone numbers, any phone number for a company. And all he'd do is the last 4 digits, he'd change it to 0000, and he'd get to the front desk. And then he'd always ask to be transferred to somebody. Maybe it's somebody in human resources, that sort of thing. So that's one thing you can try. Okay, you can always call up human resources, even if you don't have their number. That's fine. Just call the front desk and just say, can you please transfer me to somebody in human resources? That's what I'd recommend. Yeah. Anyway, it's a pretty cool way to be crafty. And I'm going to teach you all a way to get a meeting with a CEO. Okay. And this is actually probably one of my better pieces of advice. So when you're trying to sell something to a company, go to the CEO, go to the person that's in charge, because it's such a waste of time trying to navigate through, this big ocean of executives till you get to whoever's at the top there. What you do is this: go to annual shareholder meetings. Nobody goes to them, and everybody can go, right? And it's easy to crash it. It's not like that movie, The Wedding Crashers, where you got to kind of sneak in. It's easy to go to them. You don't have to get permission. Everybody can go. And you know what happens at these annual meetings? They're half empty. There's a couple of old dudes, even older than me, that aren't really paying attention. Then there's bad coffee. And then after, when they're done, the management team stays, the CEO stays, of course, until everybody has left. And you can approach the CEO and corner him or her and talk to them for ages. And there might be a couple other people around that work for them. And during that conversation with the CEO, you can then say, as a follow-up, is it okay if I contact you and we sit down for coffee? The CEO is going to say yes. Why? Because they have to set a good example for other executives around them and other board members around them. Those board members can control their career. So I want you to go to these shareholder meetings, and you can meet with anybody. You can meet with anybody you want, any CEO on the planet. And if you work in sales, that's gold. That's gold, because that's your customer. That's what you got to do. You got to do. Go right to the top, or meet with the CEO and say, I'd love to get a job at your company. You know, who should I contact? And they'll say, oh, call this person in HR. And so you'll call that person in HR and say, hey, your CEO, Sally, told me to call you about meeting regarding a job. It's true, they did. Of course, that person will take the job. That's their boss. So anyway, that's a good tactic to use. Robin, you should use that as well when you're looking for customers for your company. Because when you start a company, a lot of the time, all you need is 1 or 2 customers, and then you're set for life. Why? Because if you get a customer from a big company, let's say it's IBM, that's a reference customer, and you could tell every other potential customer, if IBM's okay with this, that IBM is a customer. You can even ask IBM if you can put IBM's logo on your website. A lot of people do that. They say, as seen on TV or whatever, that sort of thing, right? So just get that one big customer, then you're set. And even David Hewlett, I think, or maybe Bill Hewlett. Sorry, Bill Hewlett at Stanford. He called a buddy of his that worked for the Walt Disney Company, and he got that one customer, Walt Disney, and that was their big contract for Hewlett Packard. And everyone else was like, oh, wow, yeah, Walt Disney's a customer? That's how it works. It becomes a reference customer. So again, please ask more questions if you have them, and I'll answer all questions until there's no more. Willem, thank you. McLovin, that's what I'm talking about. So Willem guessed the movie that this was from the other day. And Willem, I got to tell you a quick thing, okay? So I was out vlogging the other day, and a policeman pulled me over, and he said, sir, we've been getting complaints that you've been filming stuff. I was just filming myself walking down the street. And so I showed him my real ID, which is this one. And then I said, can I show you something funny? And I showed him this, and the barrel of laughter that came out of this cop was awesome. It was cool. I wish I filmed it. Anyway. All right, next question I've got here is, what is a good time to call human resources, I guess, or a person during business hour, morning, afternoon, evening, etc.? Okay, this is a great question. All right, here's what you do. If you're interviewing for a finance position and you have their phone number, don't ever call them around 9:30 in the morning, because New York time, because that's when the market opens. And don't ever call them around 4 p.m. because that's right when the market closes. Okay, ever. You call them about 2 o'clock in the afternoon when there's no major news on the stock market and volume is low. And by the same token, if it's something that doesn't work in finance, when to call them? Don't call them on Monday because they're probably jammed with work. Don't call them on Friday. They might have left early, right? They want to go home. Call them on Wednesday or a Thursday afternoon, around 2 o'clock. And don't leave voicemails, because a lot of times these people won't call you back. Keep calling until they pick up. Keep calling until they pick up. Okay, that's what I recommend. Okay, and again, if you have questions, please enter them here, and I will wrap up this call. And there's no more questions, and it looks like there's no more questions, so please keep asking. Willem, McLovin, how do you balance work and pleasure, watching movies, etc.? That's a great question. So when you get older, you know what's important and what's not important, and you can get stuff done faster, and you learn yourself too. I do all my most important work in the first 1 or 2 hours during the day when I'm fresh. And working in the first hour of the day for me, just like studying for some of you or working for some of you in the morning, is really, really productive time, because that first hour is when you're fresh. And 1 hour of working in the morning for me is the equivalent of like 10 hours at night. or something like that. So I do my most important stuff early on. And another trick, Willem, is that I don't ever do anything really important in work unless I'm really into it, right? If I'm really kind of spacey and not into it, whatever, I'll take time off, or I'll just do mindless work stuff, like, I don't know, like creating logos for my daily vlog, which is kind of fun. I like that. But you learn, and what I also do is, I don't have it with me here, but I have a daily schedule that I make every day, which I guarantee if you guys do that, it'll really help. So go to harounventures.com/schedule. Okay. harounventures.com/schedule, all lowercase, and you can download my template. And what I do every night is at 9 p.m. my iPhone goes off, the alarm here. The alarm goes off, and that's a reminder. Oh yeah, I got to write my schedule. And so I have this one pager, and I'll write down, and I'll show you what it looks like. Actually, I think I have it here on here. Oh, I just have this. Anyway, you probably can't see that, but it looks like this here. Let me make it a little bit brighter for you. Sorry, hold on. It's all the way up. It looks like this. So, all right. So I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that from here, but I save it here a lot of the time as well. So I'm actually gonna hold this here so you guys can see it. I might have to keep clicking on. All right. So I don't know if you can see that, but I'm gonna kind of go through this a little bit. You can download something like this from harounventures.com/schedule. So, and everyone is different, but I'm going to show you, okay? And I plan each day, and this is from a couple days ago. Okay, sorry about the fact it doesn't look that great, but I'm going to go over it. So up here, this is so unprofessional. Somebody please click the down arrow, down like. Just kidding. No, don't do that. Here's my to-do for the next day in the middle there. And this is my schedule for the day as well. You won't be able to read my writing. And then I've also got up here other things like God, did I pray? I'm a religious guy, whatever. Family, diet, in that order. Did I do weights, whatever, a little bit, I don't care. Did I exercise to get my 20,000 steps? And at the very bottom here, I don't know if you can see that. Take a look there. Today's accomplishment score out of 0. Or out of 100. I will score myself at the end of the day, and I'll take 10% off for everything I violated. Did I go to the gym? Did I spend time with family? That sort of thing. I don't do it on the weekends anymore because it'll drive me crazy. And I made actually an electronic version. I use my iPhone pencil thing, whatever, with as well. But I don't do that stuff I don't do that schedule on the weekend. It drives me nuts. But if I didn't schedule my time like that, I wouldn't be productive. And you know what, Will? It's actually that I find that the more busy you are, the more productive you are, the more stuff you get done. And if you want something to get done, give it to a busy person. And you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if you've ever been out of work. I have, and you're just not that productive. You just can't get stuff done. Just keep busy. Right. And with my kids as well, one of them is, 2 of them are teenagers now, 13 and 14-year-old. My God, it goes fast. But I make sure they're busy because if they're not, they can do other stuff. You know what I'm talking about. So stuff that I did but didn't get caught for. Oh, wish I could retract that. Okay. And so that's how I balance everything. But what I do actually, and I don't recommend you do this, but I'm always open with you guys, but I actually, I have this thing that holds my iPad right by my bed. I got into a car accident years ago. My neck's not great, but whatever, it's all good. Good stuff came out of it. I have the thing that holds here, and I watch on low light on here. Just I'll watch a TV show. I recently finished watching on Netflix The Crown, which you gotta watch. It's brilliant. It's about Queen Elizabeth. Fascinating show. Anyway, I watched that. I do watch a lot of movies, but I don't just usually watch them, while I'm lying in bed, whatever. I'll do it while I'm on the elliptical trainer. And I do a lot of work on the elliptical trainer too. I bring my iPad every day at 4 o'clock, which is when I exercise. Never work out first thing in the morning when you get older, because a lot of guys die from heart attacks on the golf course, whatever, first thing in the morning. But I'll bring this and I'll put it on the elliptical trainer. This thing's a good investment. And I'll respond to a lot of emails and messages at 4 o'clock on this thing. And while I'm on the elliptical trainer exercising and working, I don't have a job, I have a passion, I love what I do. I do it on this thing at 4 o'clock every day. And that 1 or 2 hours on the elliptical trainer at the gym, I keep my heart rate at 130, which is a safe level. And then what I do is in that 1 or 2 hours, I get so much done because what's happening is you're taking in oxygen to your brain. Your brain's a muscle. And I'm surprised nobody's written a paper about this. But I really believe that when you bring in more oxygen into your brain, um, you're more productive because you're basically producing serotonin in your brain, which I think is what Prozac produces. You're producing it naturally in your brain, and it keeps you happy and it keeps you productive and allows you to absorb a lot of information. And Steve Jobs, God bless him, but when he was alive, he got his best ideas when he went on walks. And same thing with me. I go on lots of walks all the time. And I do a lot of my work while I'm walking. And for those of you that have watched my vlogs, you'll see that I walk a lot of times when I'm vlogging. And I had to buy a special holder for my vlog so it doesn't shake up and down. But it made sense for me to do that because I'm more productive when I'm walking and exercising. So make sure you get lots of exercise and try to multitask as well. Do two things at once. If you got to do mindless emails or whatever it is, do it at the gym. Do it in between sets or do it on the elliptical trainer, because I promise you, it'll change your life. You'll get a lot more done. And anyway, so that's how I humbly do it. But thank you for the question, Willem. Appreciate that. And I just downloaded Deadpool 2, and I'm gonna watch it tonight. I'm going on a flight. I'm flying to Sao Paulo tonight. And I'm giving my speech on Saturday, and what I'll do, I'll vlog from there too. I think I'll send you guys a copy of that speech. But I had so much fun making this speech. It felt like a work of art. Like I just enjoyed it. It was just fun. Anyway, I'm rambling there. But Willem, hopefully that answers your question. Please ask more questions. Thanks. And that goes for everybody on this call. Please ask questions. The second you stop, I'll wrap it up. Okay, next question is from Kay. Hey, Kay. Hi, Chris. If you restart your career from the beginning, will you follow the same career path? Okay. Which job would you keep and which job replaces something else? Okay. So, and if I'm wrong, please let me know. But I think you're also asking if I could do it all over again, would I have done anything differently? And if that's not right, then let me know. But no, for me, no. I learned a lot from working for other people. I learned what not to do, but I learned what to do as well. I worked for wonderful people and people that should never be managing people. But I learned from them. And I worked in many different industries. I worked in consulting at Accenture. It wasn't for me, but I loved it for a while. I worked on Wall Street, Goldman. I worked for a couple of hedge funds. I worked for myself. I did venture capital firm. I got fired from one company, even though I made them a lot of money. And I started a lot of companies, and I learned so much along the way. And I remember when I got fired. If you ever get fired, that's okay. You're not a real person until you've been fired. But anybody that's ever amounted to anything has been fired. Madonna. I can't believe I'm mentioning Madonna on my webcast, but she got fired from Dunkin' Donuts. Robert Redford, the great actor, got fired from an oil company. Michael Bloomberg, billionaire New York guy, got fired from Merrill Lynch. And I remember when it happened to me, I remember thinking to myself, I went to church, I was praying. This is not a religious thing, but I was like, why did this happen? And I made myself feel better by saying, well, it's okay because God knows what's going to happen. And if, Gandhi had that great quote, and I'm butchering it here. Gandhi said, if you worry too much, you're kind of questioning your faith. So anyway, when I look back now, my career, I'm glad I got fired, and I'm glad I was sent down that path. Okay. Anyway, so I wouldn't have changed a thing. Anyway, hopefully that answers your question. If it didn't, please let me know. But keep searching for your passion. Keep changing jobs. Keep changing profession until you wake up one day and you don't have passion. You don't have a job anymore. You have a passion. You love what you do. Okay. All right, George. Hey, George, how are you? It's a new question. I've never got a question from George before. Thank you for joining us. Do I offer public speaking presentation master classes? I do. I have a course on Udemy called the Complete Presentation and Public Speaking course. I think it's like 16 hours long. It's a bit long, I'll be honest with you, but I couldn't stop. I just kept going and going and going. And I sucked at presenting for years, and I was scared of it. And then I ran into my fear by going into the prison system to help out, these poor kids, usually, deadbeat fathers, no such thing as a deadbeat mother. And I would present to them, that sort of thing. But anyway, if you want, you can take that course, and it'll help you out with presentations. And as with all my courses, there's a 30-day 100% money back guarantee. And I encourage you to take that course. And if you're not an amazing public speaker after those 30 days, you can get a refund. And if 30 days pass, send me a message and I'll personally give you the money back if you want. Okay. How's that for a sales pitch? Just kidding. All right. Another question here. And George, please ask more questions. Right now, everybody. Otherwise, I'll wrap it up. That's cool. All right. So, Kay's another question here. Hold on 1 second. Everybody, please stay with me here. I'm just having technical problems. I'm just scrolling down here. Okay, don't leave. Sorry, I'm scrolling down. Scrolling down. All right. Yeah, please keep the questions coming. All right, so Kay's got a question here. Hi, Chris. I work for an apparel exporting company in China. Okay, clothing, right? Clothing exporting company. I find it very hard to promote my products to buyers through LinkedIn InMail. What should I do if there's no response? That's a great question. So don't ever sell something without meeting them first, okay? What you do is this, okay? So download my networking book. It's 200 pages and a couple hours of YouTube videos. You can go to harounventures.com, download it for free there. But what you got to do is, and I've said a lot of times that, sorry to be repetitive, but business is about relationships, not about product knowledge. So before selling them anything or mentioning the product, you got to meet them in person. And here's how you do it. Okay, so you're in China, you mentioned. Okay, so find something in common, like do an advanced search in LinkedIn, and find somebody that works at a company that could be your customer that has something in common with you. Maybe they went to the same high school as you. Do a 300-mile or 150-kilometer radius search around where you live in China. Okay, say you're, I don't know, maybe you're in Shanghai, and I don't know, maybe you worked at Shonda video game company in the past, or the Nine, or whatever it might be. Do an advanced search, or DJI. Do an advanced search for those three companies, and then send somebody an InMail. And the InMail should look like this exactly. In the subject line, in the LinkedIn InMail, and you might have to pay your $30 a month for LinkedIn, but it's worth it. In the subject line, use two letters, HI, hi, or whatever it might be in Mandarin or Cantonese. Okay. And then what you do is, in the contents of that message, you type this. John, I'm making this up. John, hope all is well. I'm also from Shanghai, and I also used to work at DJI, and I also went to the same high school as you. Please let me know if you have time for a coffee in the next few weeks. Thanks, Chris. That works everywhere. Okay, and using that methodology, I've actually gotten 95% of all meetings I've gotten, messages I sent like this, people respond, I get the meeting. Okay, I'm not saying to impress you or show off. I'm saying to impress upon you the fact that you can do it. Why LinkedIn? Because I know everybody on this webcast right now. I know every single one of you. Whenever you get a message in LinkedIn, you open it. Whenever you get a message in email, you probably don't open it, okay, unless the subject line is amazing. But LinkedIn, everybody opens those messages because in the top right-hand corner on the screen in LinkedIn, there's very valuable real estate. And that's a little red flag. And that's why we all open them. And if you see one with the subject line, hi, what does this guy want or girl want? Of course you open it. Now, don't mention why you want to meet. I'm not going to be disingenuous, but if you mention why you want to meet, they won't take the meeting. Not because they don't want to help you, but because maybe they feel bad that they can't help you. Like if you're looking for a job, you say, I want to get a job or whatever, or I want to sell a product, they won't even answer. So get that first meeting with them, okay? And then, okay, what you do is during that first meeting, in the first 15, 20, 30 minutes of that meeting, just get to know them. Maybe they're from the same home. You have something in common with them already. Maybe they went to your high school, or they used to work at a company you worked at. I keep mentioning DJI. It's my favorite Chinese company ever. And just talk about what you have in common. And then after 30 minutes or so, they're going to politely, it always happens, they're going to very politely ask you, why are we meeting? And at that point, you can say, something along the lines of, why you're meeting. You have this company and you're interested in selling them that product or the apparel that you mentioned in your message here. And if they're not the right person, then so who's the right person at your company? Or do you know of anybody that also went to our high school or whatever that can introduce me to somebody that might want to purchase my apparel? That's how I would do it. Business is about relationships, and relationships are always more important than product knowledge. So don't ever sell something or try to sell something to anybody without getting to know them first. And I promise you that this will help. And another reason why it'll help is because not many people do it, right? So that's what I recommend. And if you have follow-up questions on that, please let me know. And I know it might feel uncomfortable for a lot of you to do that initially, because it was really uncomfortable for me. But after a while, it's actually pretty easy to do, and you feel more comfortable with it. Okay, great. So hopefully I answered your question. If it did not, please let me know. Again, if you have questions, please answer them here, and I'll keep answering questions until no more questions are remaining. Let's do a time check here. We got lots of time. Okay, good. Okay, so Robin's got another question, which is, and by the way, if I have not answered your question, if I've overlooked it as I scroll down, answer the question again right now, please. And if anybody else has any follow-up questions, please answer them in right now, or I'll just, we'll wrap it up, which is cool. So Robin's got another question, which is, what would you recommend your 22-year-old self do in hindsight? Wow. Thank you, Robin. That's great. Take more risks. Take more risks, because you got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And it's interesting because my life is, I'm so happy with how things turned out. And, Christine, she's amazing. I love her so much. But I remember it was a risk even asking her out. Not a risk, but just, it's kind of hard to do, right? And I have a good friend of mine. He works for a big mutual fund out here. I went to high school and undergrad with him. We worked at Goldman together. And he's an average guy. Dave, if you're watching, you're not average. He's an average guy, but he always had the most perfect girlfriends. I mean, in every way, smart, funny, attractive, everything. And the reason was because he was fine with failure, rejection. He'd ask somebody out and he'd get rejected, and he'd keep trying. He didn't care. It's a game of numbers. For me, I don't know. I remember when I was younger, I'd go out and I'd ask a couple of girls out. I'd ask 4 or 5, whatever it is, and then I'd stop because, I don't know, I just kind of lose confidence. But just keep at it, Robin. Just know that if you fail a lot, that means you're getting closer to success. And I remember, and Kay, you'll love this answer too, and everybody actually on the webcast. When I used to teach during the evenings at San Francisco State University, and I love those students. Oh my God, they're the best students on the planet. I've taught everywhere. But I remember the first day of class, every semester, I'd ask a question. And I would say something like this. I'd say, if I told you that over the next 10 weeks, if you did 10 informational meetings using LinkedIn with strangers that work at companies you want to work for, if I guaranteed to you that if you did all 10 of these meetings, that you would get the job of your dreams at McKinsey or whatever firm it is, would you do it? Every hand went up, every single one. Then on the last day of class, I asked, how many of you did it? How many of you set up those 10 meetings? No hands go up. I said, how many did 9? No hands go up. How many did 8? Maybe one hand goes up. And that person never gets the top grades, but that's the person that's always the most successful in life because they asked. And just do a search online, Robin, on Steve Jobs Ask. Watch that video, Steve Jobs Ask. It'll change your life. And Steve Jobs was successful because he asked. When he was a kid, he asked Bill Hewlett if he could work at he wanted something. He called him, and Bill Hewlett gave him a job at Hewlett Packard and changed his life. And there's actually this kid that called up. Nobody knows this. This is awesome. There's this kid that years later called up Steve Jobs and said, "Mr. Jobs, can I get some help from you?" Yada yada. And Jobs was like, "Wow, who's this kid?" And Jobs met with this person and mentored him. And that person is Mark Benioff, who's the CEO and founder of Salesforce.com, the largest employer here in San Francisco. And so, in hindsight, I would have told myself to take even more risks. Now, I take on a lot of risk. I always do, always have, and always will. But I wish I took on more risk, because you're never going to be successful in all aspects of your life unless you take on risk. And big companies or big universities, if they don't take on risk, they won't be relevant in the long run. And Mark Zuckerberg had this great quote, and I'm going to butcher it here, like I do all quotes. He said, the biggest risk for any company is not taking risk, because the world is changing so fast. So you got to take risks, take a lot of risk. And the beautiful thing about business, and this applies to every single person on this call. So my job didn't exist 5 years ago. And your next job probably does not exist yet. And my children's jobs certainly do not exist yet. So if you're frustrated with what you're doing, just keep your eyes open at changing trends technology-wise, and take advantage of new secular growth trends. Vlogging is a profession. I don't make any money doing it, but a lot of people do. And the younger generation, my kids, they love vloggers. They love it. They love it. That's a profession. And I encourage my kids to follow their heart. So Robin, what I would also, thank you, Robin. God bless you. What I also say is, just follow your passion, follow your heart. It's do what you love most in this world. Don't chase money. If you chase money, you lose your money and your dreams. If you chase your dreams, they'll come true. I promise you, over time, if you keep at it, if you're willing to fail. And failure is cool, man. It's not shameful. Otherwise, what happens is something terrifying to all of us, which is this. You wake up one day and you realize that somebody else is paying you a small amount of money to help make their dreams come true. And you know what I'm talking about. You all work for somebody, or might have worked for somebody in the past, and you make them a lot of money. And it doesn't seem right, does it? That's okay if it doesn't seem right. I hope you're all frustrated. And I say it in a loving way, okay? Because frustration leads to reinvention. Find the reason you were put on this earth. Find your passion. Take classes online. Anywhere. I'm not going to type up my classes, whatever, but just do it. Keep learning. Keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. Keep searching for your passion. And it's like love. You'll find it eventually if you just keep searching. Don't ever stop looking. And should you change careers, and I put a vlog on this out last night. You can watch it if you want, but if you're not learning anymore in your job, or if you're not happy, you gotta pull the ripcord, man. Get out. And just take courses online, because that might help you to understand what your next passion is. So, and we're all going to live until we're into our hundreds now. So we have a lot of time left to change careers many times. And millennials, I love this generation, millennials, this younger generation, they don't know what a pension is, and neither do I. That's cool. But they're not going to work for one person forever. They know they're going to have a lot of side hustles, and a side hustle means a job on the side. Maybe you're driving Uber, maybe you have Airbnb at your house, whatever. Maybe you're teaching online, and everybody has something to teach. Everybody does. And so I encourage all of you to teach and share your passion, because what happens is when one teaches, two learn. Okay. So anyway, that's my humble thoughts on that. And again, if anybody has questions, please answer them here, and I'd be more than happy to answer them. If I've not answered your question yet, please paste them here, because I'm not going to scroll up anymore. I might have missed it. Sorry. Mr. Nitro, Dave, right? Yeah. Okay. Oh, by the way, Dave, you published a book, Yeep Yeep, I think it was called, right, for kids. We loved it, man. We loved it. Thank you. I actually bought it. Can you put a link in here to your book? So sorry to put you on the spot, Dave, but Dave just published a book. And for those of you who have not published a book yet, you got to do it. And you can get what I'll do is I'll provide a book template in the write up here in the description field later. You can come back and get it and fill out that template. But Dave, put the link to your book here. It's a children's book. I loved it, and God bless you. Good for you for writing it. All right, Mr. Nitro, I got to answer your question now. Sorry. Hi, Chris. I was wondering what key things I should be teaching my 9 and 12-year-old girls that they don't teach in school for them to succeed. What do you teach your boys? Oh, now I get it in your book. It makes sense. It's a couple things. Sorry. Great book, by the way. Okay, so okay, I think the most important things that you can teach your children: confidence. Right. In my house is a little different. I'm not going to push my agenda on everybody, but for me, it goes God, family, everything else. Right. And if my kids do well enough in school, I leave them alone, let them do what they want. But confidence is important because if you build up a child's confidence or a student, right? And I think teachers should build up students' confidence. With confidence, you can do anything, man. You can do anything you want. You could take on a big company like IBM, right? Like Bill Gates did. David, oh man, I'm getting shivers just thinking about this, David, but it's so prophetic. It's like David and Goliath, David. Mr. Nitro is David here. David always beats Goliath because David's heart is much bigger. So just confidence is the most important thing that you can teach your children or your students or anybody that works for you. And praise as well. People don't praise enough. They don't give enough positive feedback. And there's a great software company out here, and I knew the CEO. It's a software company called Splunk. And the CEO, great guy. He was also the CEO of a company called Hyperion that Oracle bought. But he said something that changed my perception on managing people, which is this. He said, Chris, you want to always praise in public and criticize in private. And that's what I do with parenting as well. But if you criticize in private, people will kind of take it as a compliment because they kind of feel like you care about me and you're helping me. If you criticize in public, yeah, or in private, yeah. Aside from that, confidence is number one. Oh, risk taking. Encourage your kids to take risks as well, right? Like if my kid did something completely different on an essay the other day, and he got a C, and that's 78%, by the way. 78% when I was younger, that was like amazing grade. They call it C now. I don't know why, whatever. And I didn't get upset. I never do. But I said, good for you for taking a chance. Keep taking those chances. And I don't tell my kids what they should be when they grow up, because if you tell your kids to be something like, I don't know, a lawyer, an engineer, whatever it is, or a doctor, whatever, they'll grow up being miserable. And they'll have kind of done what they did to please you. There's a great biography on Jane Fonda, which I'm gonna watch tonight, I think, on HBO. I'm gonna bring on the plane with me. And Jane Fonda, for years, she's a great actress. Everything she did was to please her father. Kind of like in that movie On Golden Pond. She's in it with her dad. Don't live your life to please others. Do what you're most passionate about. And I want my kids to be happy. And people that work with me as well. And Wrigley, who's probably only the person I'll ever hire. He works with me. I want him to be better off, whether he stays with me or leaves one day to go to Harvard, whatever it is. I care deeply about his career and his happiness. And everybody that's ever worked for me, is better off. They're happier and they're doing bigger things. And most of them become much more successful than I could ever dream of. So anyway, just kind of coach them to follow their heart, follow what they love doing. And one more thing I'm going to say, because it's very hard. I was really insecure. I'm going to show you a chart. I've done this before, Dave, but it's prophetic. It's important, whatever. I shouldn't say prophetic, it's important. So I want you to not give a damn what people think, okay? And this is important for business and life in general, okay? And what I'm going to explain, the top CEOs and business people on the planet have this philosophy, okay? Here's a chart. Please visualize it. On the x-axis is your age. On the y-axis is give a damn, okay? When you're first born, you're a little kid like my kid, you're down here. You don't give a damn what people think. You have meltdowns in restaurants. You don't care. Then when you're older, like an old person, you don't care either. Old people don't have confidence problems. But when you're in your 20s, like I was, or 30s even, I'm up here. I was up here. I care what people thought. That's the triangle of despair. That triangle. Eliminate that triangle of despair and live on this level always. I don't want you to give a shit, sorry for swearing, but I want to have impact. I don't want you to give a damn what people think, because you won't be successful. Because if you care what people think, then you'll change what you're doing every day to make other people happy and not yourself. Imagine that, a life of trying to make other people happy, but not you. It's misery. It's misery. And the most successful CEOs and entrepreneurs in the world, they live at that low level forever. They don't care what people think. You know, Steve Jobs would show up to work every day at Atari and Activision before Apple with long hair. He didn't shower. I recommend you all shower, though. He didn't care what people thought, and they made him work the night shift because of that. And so just don't care what people think. The best entrepreneurs in the world, they don't care. A lot of them have to hire stylists later in life to tell them how to look or whatever. And a lot of them, you know, they stay in that same level their whole lives. They don't care. You know, Sir Richard Branson, same thing with him. He never cared. He dropped out of high school, I think. He changed the world. So I would say, Mr. Nitro Dave, just make sure they're confident. You know, my kids, I try with that. My employees, the confidence to do what they want. Okay, within reason, obviously. Yeah, the worst thing you can do is spend your life living someone else's. Great question. I love it. I love it. Dante, it's about time, brother. So Dante is from Ottawa and Montreal, and always has great questions. They're hard ones though, but I like it. It's good. And Dante, thank you for your comments on LinkedIn too. Appreciate it. Okay, so Dante says, "Hey Chris, you used to say that you won't buy a company where the founders have left the company. However, the founder of Nintendo seems to have left." Oh, dude, I love it. Seems to have passed away almost 100 years ago. That's a great question. Oh my God, I love that question, dude. Right to my heart. So I did a 20-minute vlog about 2 weeks ago on Nintendo, and I poured my heart out on Nintendo, including conversations I had with Bill Gates about Nintendo, and I know everything. I love this company. So Nintendo is 128 years old. It's the oldest running tech company in the world. And I think that Nintendo has reinvented itself so many times. It used to be a playing card company. And what happened was in the 1940s and 50s, after World War II, they reinvented themselves again. And by 1950, they came to America and they licensed Disney content to put on their cards. Okay. And that company kept starting over and over and over again. And there's a guy named Miyamoto-san. Dude, this guy's a rock star. He joined the company, I think in the 70s, maybe early 80s. And he basically reinvented the company. He basically is the new founder of that company, right? He changed course, right, of that company forever. And this is the guy that created Mario. He created, Zelda. He created Pikmin. When he was a kid in his backyard, he pretended there's little Pikmin running around, right? Miyamoto-san, he changed that company completely. Imagine that. Imagine somebody coming up to you one day and say, "I want to create this video game. It's about this, I don't know, this Italian plumber that uses a hammer to, crush barrels on fire. Then he climbs up ladders and he steals back his girlfriend from a big monkey ape guy." What is that? So Miyamoto-san, he basically is the founder of the company, in my humble opinion, because they reinvented themselves. But Dante, great question. Please ask hard questions like this. I love them. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right, Dante's got another question here. And again, if you have questions, please write them here. When there's no more questions, I'll stop the webcast. If I have not answered your question, please paste it in again or ask follow-ups. Okay, another question here from Dante. Do you think a business model and corporate culture mattered more for the profitability of a company in the long term? And what are other companies you know which have been successful for a long time? That's great. Great question. All right, business model. No, I think that profitability matters more than corporate culture in the long run. Only because of what happens is in the long run, the founder's no longer there. And when you model a company, and I know you're very good at valuation and modeling, we talk about this a lot. But when you model a company in the long run, you're basically valuing a company based on future earnings. And between year 10 and infinity, you've got the terminal value. I won't go all finance geek on y'all, but that's all profitability when you're discounting it using the weighted average cost of capital to today. So I would say that profitability is the most important thing. And then, but corporate culture is important. It is important because the culture of a company, as you all know, is set by the person at the top, always, right? And if you work at a smaller company, if the girl or guy that you work for, is kind of cool and laid back and funny, then it's a fun corporate culture. If they're a jerk, then it's a crappy corporate culture. And actually, this is a little side note. I'm on the board, and one of my students at San Francisco State started this amazing charity called POW, which is providing opportunities for women. And her name is Brenda. She's awesome, and she gave just an incredibly empowering presentation, which broke my heart. And she said that there's more CEOs in America named John than there are women CEOs. Isn't that terrible? Terrible. So anyway, a little off topic there, but if you're frustrated working for somebody else and there's a glass ceiling, and it doesn't matter if whatever reason it's for, just if that frustrates you, there's nothing more beautiful than sticking it to them by starting your own company and being much bigger and more successful and then buying that company. A little out there, sorry, but I've got big ambitions. So, all right, next question. What other companies do you know have been successful for a very long time? It's hard because I've covered every sector in the world in every country pretty much, right? I know a lot about tech, but technology companies didn't really exist until the hippie era, in the 1960s, when the semiconductor sector was created to put the first person on the moon. And around the ecosystem, hardware emerged and software, then internet. So there's not many companies been around and successful for a long, long time. Intel, I guess, is one of them. Intel's had to reinvent themselves over and over and over again because of competition from Japanese companies in the semiconductor sector years ago. They switched in from RAM to making processors. So any company that can transition and reinvent themselves over and over and over again and disrupt their own business models like Netflix did with DVDs, I think they can stand the test of time. I really do. I really do. But, Andy Grove wrote this great book, and Andy Grove is the late, great former CEO, not the founder, but the former CEO of Intel. And he wrote this great book called Only the Paranoid Survive, which I love. You got to read it. And he talks about how Intel reinvented themselves, and how every company has got what's called a strategic inflection point at some point where they have to reinvent themselves or they die. Innovate or die. And Intel certainly did that. And another thing, while we're on the topic of Intel, is transparency and disclosure. Transparency builds trust. Okay, it always does. And I'll vlog about this in a couple of days as well. But if you disclose everything you're allowed to customers and potential customers, that love and bond they have for you, will be with you forever. Okay, so little things like Salesforce had that website, trust.salesforce.com or whatever it is, where they tell you in real time how many servers are down for that company. And what Andy Grove did was and do a Google on this if you want, but I think it was 1995. They discovered at Intel a little flaw in their Pentium chip, which meant that there was what's called a floating zero. I'm not going to nerd out with math here, but certain calculations didn't work, like crazy big computations. And Andy Grove went on national TV, and he did damage control before the world found out about it, right? They could have covered it up. They didn't. And it was brilliant. And it was brilliant because people developed a love and trust with that brand. And it was also free PR for them. I'm sure he didn't think of it that way, but everyone was watching. Anyway, and a lot of people didn't know what Intel was at the time, which is such a brilliant company because they were able to market a product you don't see, feel, or touch, the chip inside your computer. And, since Andy Grove has passed away, we don't really know what's inside our computer anymore. I know that sounds out there, but when I was younger, I would always know what processor I had in my computer. I bet you nobody on this call, or not many, know what processor model they have inside their Mac, for example. Anyway, things have changed. Anyway, a little bit off topic there, but Dante, no, there's it's tough to think of other companies that have been successful for a long time. I mean, Walmart's still successful. Anyway, so if you have questions, please let me. Thank you, Dante. I love your questions, buddy. Oh, thanks, Robin. Okay, keep asking questions if you have them. So, question here from Kay. A buyer confirmed. Okay, so earlier on, Kay asked a question about selling apparel, meaning clothing in China. And he said a clothing buyer confirmed my order verbally, but she's replying. She's not replying to any follow-up emails from me, even though I called her. She said she was busy and waiting for her manager's confirmation. What should I do? God, this one's tough, man. It's a great question. A lot of the times when people don't answer a message, it's because they have bad time management, or they just they forgot, or they're no longer interested. But you know, if you've got nothing to lose, I'm gonna go out there. Here we go. If you've got nothing to lose, reach out to somebody else in that company. Take that risk. Okay. Reach out to somebody else in that company. You got nothing to lose. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Or maybe send, you know what you can do actually, Kay, is send a LinkedIn message. Have you done that yet? Because I promise you, she will open that LinkedIn message. Okay. So send a LinkedIn message. Okay. And one more thing, Kay. When you send her the LinkedIn message, and she knows you obviously already, say, I have an important person I want to introduce you to that will help you with your business. Maybe another customer for them. Okay. Just give and you will receive always in the long run. I promise you. And I read this great Harvard Business School book called Givers and Takers. And the poorest 1% of people in the world are givers, the people with beautiful hearts and beautiful souls like Mother Teresa. The middle 98% are takers. Most people are takers in life, right? They take, they don't get it. The top 1% of people in the world, right, the most successful and the richest ones, whatever, are the ones that are givers. You know, if you give, you'll receive longer term. It's not just a prophetic thing, but I promise you it's how it works. I've always given with my heart and helped a lot of people when they reached out to me, not because I wanted something in return, but all of my best business contracts in life, everything I've amounted to has somehow come back to me because those people have helped me longer term, even though I never asked them for it. So anyway, offer Kay to give something. Okay. All right. All right. Oh, David, you're welcome. Okay. Mr. Nitro. Okay. So, Rafai's got a question. So Rafai, I love your icon there, the Apple icon. It's awesome. And Apple changed my life. When I was a kid, I got diagnosed with a learning disability. And it killed my confidence. You know, fuck you, teachers. Sorry, I never say the F word, but you know what I'm talking about. I was in the 6th grade and the 8th grade, and teachers wanted to film. Not my parents. My parents are awesome. My dad went in, he yelled at the teacher. He's the best. But then the school I went to, and they've asked me over and over again to come back and give a grad speech, and I'll never do it. I never told them why. I'm not going to mention what school it was. Sorry. But they thought I had a learning disability, and they sent me to this place called Chisholm in Oakville, Ontario, on Lakeshore Road, to get tested, and it killed my confidence. And I mentioned this for Faye because your Apple logo, and you know my parents cared deeply about me, and they're always so best parents ever, man. But the reason I sucked at school was because I wasn't doing what I was passionate about. And then my dad, and this will date me, I think it was 1986 or 87 or something. He bought me, maybe earlier, a Mac Plus, and I still have it. I'll bring it onto this webcast one day, a Macintosh, and my grades went through the roof because I loved what I was doing. I was passionate about what I was doing. So anyway, Apple changed my life. And yeah, anyway. All right, Rafai's got a question. Hi, Chris. Hope you'll be fine. I find your MBA course that a company whose founder has left stops innovating. Okay, good. You said, how about Microsoft and Apple? Okay, good. So Apple is one of the exceptions. However, Apple almost went bankrupt. They almost went belly up. So they fired Steve Jobs in the late 1980s when he was about 30, and he thought his life was over. And what happened was Apple almost went bankrupt in the late 90s. And I'll never forget the cover of Wired magazine at the time was the Apple logo, the old one with the beautiful colors. the Apple logo, and around it said "Pray." And Steve Jobs came back. The board brought him back. He turned the company around. So the founder turned that company around. They did. They did. And since Steve Jobs has passed away, God bless him, I don't think Apple's innovative anymore. And I know that a lot of people are going to be mad at me for saying that, because I do love Apple. But, all they've done is they've made a bigger version of this, a smaller version of the iPad, a little watch, which has not done that well because they haven't released the numbers, right? When a company doesn't disclose the number of units they sold, if they don't brag about it like they used to with this thing, with iPhones, then they're hiding something. They created a speaker, which is only average, whatever. They haven't really done anything innovative, any brand new products since Steve Jobs has passed away. And the same thing with Microsoft. So what happened was when Bill Gates left, the company has not been very innovative. And we know that because they fired their previous CEO, the board did. Okay. So they did the right thing bringing Satya Nadella in to be CEO, and he grew internally through the company. He created Azure, which is their version of Amazon Web Services, cloud computing. And so he was the right decision to be CEO. But Microsoft hasn't done anything that was groundbreaking and innovative since Bill Gates left. Okay. And, my kids, it's so interesting. They only know Microsoft because, that's a company that owns Minecraft. Well, yeah, they had to buy that. So big companies, they end up buying versus building when they get bigger and the founders left. It's just what happens. And I expect Microsoft to keep buying companies as well. And the reason that Microsoft is in the video game industry or sector, and you can watch my Nintendo vlog and I go into a lot more detail, but the reason that Microsoft's even in that sector, and they lost billions in that sector for years, is because of Sony. And this is interesting. So in the late 1990s or mid to late 90s, Sony released PlayStation. And when PlayStation came out, Microsoft was really worried because here you had a company building a computer, PlayStation, putting it in your living room, and your computer monitor in the future is going to be your TV. So Microsoft created Xbox just in case the monitor in your living room became your TV, the TV in your living room became your monitor. And if it weren't for Halo, Xbox wouldn't be around anymore. So anyway, a little bit off topic. But anyway, I can't wait to play the next Last of Us, completely off topic. And play Uncharted if you don't have a PS4. Buy a PS4 and play Uncharted 1, 2, 3, and 4. Best games ever. Okay. And Rafay, if that didn't answer your question, please let me know, buddy. Okay, next question is from Jason. Hey, Jason, how are you, dude? Hey, Chris, love what you do. Thank you. Thank you. I love what I do as well, which is why this call's never ending, by the way, until all of you are gone. Meaning no more questions, because I love what I do. I love what I do. All right. So Jason's saying, how do you avoid pattern recognition and encouraging investors to look at deploying capital to emerging founders? Okay, let me think about that one. How do you avoid pattern? What do you mean by how do I avoid pattern recognition? Thanks. And if I'm not answering your question, let me know. But I think you're saying, or I'm going to interpret it this way. How do you encourage investors to look at deploying capital to new founders? Okay, good. I get it. Okay. So how do you encourage, and I'm going to make this more generic answer so it applies to everybody. How do you encourage people to invest in companies with brand new founders that have never started a company before? Okay, and this will be applicable, Jason, your answer as well. Well, what happens a lot of the time is like really seasoned investors, people who have been investing for years, myself included, whatever, we know that a good company is all about a good management team. However, if a management team has never started a company before, that's a big risk. So how do you get around this? Well, what you do is you bring on a board of advisors, your board, okay? And so in your presentation slides, your investor materials, don't just show the number of employees you have in an org chart. I want you to also show the board of directors, or board advisors, I should say. Make it board advisors because there's no legal connotation. They don't have signing paperwork. And what you do is, like, for example, Mark Zuckerberg, when he started Facebook, of course it was growing quickly and everyone was excited about it. But the fact that on his board, he had brilliant people like Peter Thiel. Okay. Peter Thiel, by the way, was the one of the founders of PayPal. Okay. Peter Thiel was on his board. So was Sean Parker, who created Napster. So was Justin Timberlake. Just kidding. That's from the movie only. But you get the idea. He had these smart people on his board. And what happened was when other investors looked at Zuckerberg's company, they said, well, this guy hasn't managed before, but man, he's got good growth. His business model is awesome. Oh, look who's on his board here. Oh, yeah. He's more credible. So that's what you do as well. You can also get people to join your board just as advisors. And nobody's ever going to say no, because it's such a huge compliment to be asked to be an advisor, right? It's not a legal thing. You don't have to pay them. Okay. And so, and Kay, this might help you as well for your apparel company in China. If you're not getting enough sales, then find people that have something in common with you. Set up a meeting over LinkedIn that might work for other clothing companies. Like Benetton or that's just the first one that came to my mind, or the Gap or whatever, and get them to be on your board. Okay, your board of advisors, because that will make you more credible, right? And you'll never know if you can get them unless you ask. And so, Jason, that applies to financial services. Kay, that applies to apparel. Rafay, that applies to technology. It's applicable in every business. Little side note here: when I was in business school, I did a case study on Benetton. Benetton, big clothing company, yeah. And so what Benetton does is every single year, all their clothes are beige. They have no colors at all. And then, so they make a ton of beige clothes. And then just before they release it, they look at the biggest trends. What are the most popular colors? And they dye all of their clothes those colors. A little off topic, sorry. But I thought you'd like that, Kay, speaking of apparel. Okay. Arun's got another question. Why do rebranding of companies tend to be very expensive? Thank you. That's a great question. And I did a vlog, I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was a 30-minute vlog. I had a lot of fun with it on brands and rebranding and logos and the power of logos. Like if you look at the FedEx logo, you'll see there's a little arrow embedded in the logo, which is clever. But companies do it because they want to change perception. Okay, they want to change perception, and it can be an absolute disaster or a big success. And so Best Buy just changed their logo because when you look at it subconsciously, everybody thinks, they look at Best Buy's logo and they think, oh yeah, I can shop on Amazon, get it cheaper. So they changed their logo. We'll see how they do. The Gap changed their logo years ago to a disastrous icon that looked like something you could make in the 2002 version of Microsoft Word Art. Okay, you insert the word art. And they changed it back. Holiday Inn changed their logo, and it cost them $1 billion to change it back, apparently, because there's something to be said for tradition, right? And that warm, fuzzy feeling you get from the Holiday Inn logo, for example, whatever. They had to change it back. Coca-Cola had a new logo with new Coke in the mid 80s, which really sucked. And for those of you who don't know about that, Coke changed how Coke tastes in the mid 80s and changed their logo too. And there was such a revolt. People were actually hoarding Coke at home because they wanted to keep the old Coke, and they finally brought it back. But I think that when companies, the reason it's expensive when companies rebrand is because they've got to change the letterhead, they got to change the logo on their website, they got to do a massive global advertising campaign to let everybody know what their new logo is, their new brand. It costs a fortune. And the Philip Morris company did this too. Okay, Philip Morris is the company that makes Marlboro cigarettes, right? Bad. But what they did was they renamed themselves Altria, and they changed their logo from the Marlboro man with the cowboy hat. They changed their logo to Altria, which has a bunch of different colors signifying life. Yeah, whatever. You're not fooling me. But that's why people do it. Companies want to change the perception of the company, or because a lot of times logos get really old, and so companies want to release new ones. Anyway, that's why. All right. Shiraz, Shiraz, just your question here. Sorry. I'll get yours in a second. I'll do an order here. So Brandon, hey Brandon, good to see you again. Do you know where I can find a call put ratio for any given option? Okay, that's a good question. So for those of you that pay for finance software, don't do it. I used to pay a couple $1,000s a month for each of my employees at my hedge fund for Bloomberg software. You can get all that stuff for free. on finance.yahoo.com. Yes, it's all free now, right? The internet's a beautiful thing. So if you're using Bloomberg, you might go to OMON, which is Options Monitor. But you can just go to Yahoo Finance and just go and click through. Go to finance.yahoo.com, enter in your ticker. Okay, Brandon, then click through on options. Okay, and you'll find the puts and the calls for whatever period you want in the future, obviously, as the options are. And then just take whatever call you find and divide it by whatever put you find for that given option. And there might also be ratios there as well. And if anybody else is on this webcast right now and has a better answer than that for Brandon, please let us know. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next question I've got is from Shiraz. It's a cool logo, dude. Hey, thanks for all your passionate advice. My pleasure. Thank you. I want to start a company, but most businesses where I am are closing due to a crisis. Wow. What do I think about financial crisis? Shiraz, let me know where you are in the world, if you don't mind, if you feel comfortable answering that. I'm just curious, right? The country, city, whatever. I'm curious, as I can answer the question better. But I think that starting a company in a recession is a good thing because you're very lean. The best time to start a company is in a recession for two reasons. Number one, most people don't start companies in a recession, so you have fewer competitors. Number two, a lot of companies might go out of business. And number three, because you're lean, you're scared, right? You're paranoid, or at least I am. Only the paranoid survive. I remember I started a company in a recession once, and I was so scared about providing for my family. And so terrified that I remember in the morning, this is out there, but I would shower with the lights off because I want to save money. Crazy. Anyway, I think that starting a company in a recession is a good thing. And you're asking me also, what is my thought process on a financial crisis? I don't know right now. I never do. But I do know that business is cyclical. And if somebody tells you this time it's different, they're always wrong. Okay, business is cyclical. You go from a good market to a negative market, usually within 10 years. Okay, rinse, lather, repeat, year over year, every 10 years, usually. Okay, so just know where you are in the economic cycle. And I love to invest in companies in recessions because no one else does. That's the best time, right? If this is a bull market, this is a bear market, buy here, sell here. I know it sounds idiotic, but you want to sell your investments when the economy is doing incredibly well, and then vice versa. And you'll do exceptionally well. So anyway, that's my thought process. And I don't read editorials. I used to when I was younger. And Brandon, when you go to finance.yahoo.com, please don't read any sponsored stories. Okay, sponsored stories. I don't watch television either. Financial news, at least. I form my own opinions, and I recommend everybody do that as well, because there's so much negative news out there, man. Like my kids are happier than the older generation because the younger generation, they watch vlogs, they choose their own news, and vlogs are usually pretty positive people, versus myself, my parents watching 60 Minutes every Sunday night, whatever, which is usually not very positive. There's so much good stuff happening in the world. You just gotta look for it. Okay. All right, next question I've got here is another one from Shiraz. All right, Shiraz. Hi, Chris. Thanks for your passionate advice. Oh, sorry. I read the same one twice. I read your question twice. The older I get, the better I was. All right. Your question is this. There are many startup incubators and accelerators. Oh, you're in Dubai. Okay. Yeah. Dubai is tough. I love Dubai. A lot of my biggest investors are from Dubai. I went to the Burj Khalifa. Anyway, it's an amazing place. Oh, God. How do I answer this question without pissing people off? So, and please don't be upset with this, but based on what I know about Dubai, it's harder to take risks there if you're not a national, right? If you don't have a passport, which most people don't, because if you're not successful, you have to leave the country. God, I don't know how to answer this question. I'd probably be a little bit less willing to take risks if I lived in Dubai, but I still take risks, just who I am. But I'd be extra careful for visa reasons. Just I wouldn't take on as much risk as you might think you can. And if I'm stereotyping, I'm wrong about Dubai, please let me know. But I do know that if that most people there don't have passports. I have a couple of friends that might get one soon, but it's harder to take risks there. So just if you're going to take a risk, make sure you maybe do it a little bit later in life and make sure that you have a big cushion just in case. Okay. All right. And things are extreme in Dubai. I get it. When the global economy is doing well, they do extremely well. When it's not doing as well, there's fewer cranes, and it's kind of like Las Vegas. I get it, but I still believe you can be extremely successful there. Okay. And Dubai has a lot of capital, and don't put your family at risk. Like, try to get capital from other people there. There's a lot of potential investors there. Okay. Thank you. But I do love it there. Thank you. And if I'm wrong about Dubai, please correct me in front of the whole world here. Okay. Faisal. Hey, Faisal. First time you asked a question. Welcome. Thank you. What are some innovative companies I have my eye on right now? So I don't usually talk about companies I'm investing in, because I don't want to overhype stuff, and I want to empower the empowerers. I want to empower you to do your own research. But generally speaking, here's how I think about investments. I love investing in companies that are platforms. Okay, they own the road, and they charge the toll booths and cars. Okay, so historically, companies I've invested a lot in before, I'm not involved in now, were LinkedIn. They own the HR road. Okay, there's no better platform in the world for job stuff. Microsoft, which I owned for years in the 90s, I don't own anymore. They own the platform, which is Windows, and they charge the cars on it. Okay, Apple, which I don't own anymore, but I did for years. Too big. And I don't like investing in companies where I can get 10 or 20% per year. I want to invest in five baggers, companies that can go up a lot, whatever. It's just the way I am. This is a platform. Okay, this platform here, right? They own the road, and the cars are app companies. Like even Udemy. Like if you buy my course over Udemy, on the Udemy app, right, or the Android app, what happens is Apple or Android gets 30% cut. Okay, so they own the road. They own the road, and so the best investments are platforms. That's how I think about it. And so, if I were to tell you what investment I might be looking at one day, it would be the next operating system of choice. And I really believe in voice. Why should we have in the future? Why should we have to see, feel, or touch an operating system? Why? Voice is the next operating system that matters, more important than virtual reality. And nobody's gotten virtual reality right yet because there's no killer apps. It's kind of like the Apple Watch. There's no cool app that's worth downloading yet, in my humble opinion. New one, at least. Same thing, virtual reality. No one's nailed it. Like, I want to buy the Sony virtual reality product, but I can't because there's no good games yet. But I think a platform, and voice is the next platform that matters. And Hollywood movies have a big impact on technology trends. And I call them dreampreneurs. And I'll explain what that means. So this is California. Okay, it's like this. On the bottom here is Hollywood. And they create these great movies, and they forecast the future. Then in North California, which is San Francisco, the Bay Area, we make those dreams come true over time. I know it sounds out there. Let me explain. So Star Trek in the 1960s, that was such a forward-thinking show. I love them. And in 1969 or 68, I think, the first interracial kiss was on Star Trek. And the whole media went, oh my God, can you believe it's crazy? And I remember I called my mom about it years later, not 1968 or 69, but I asked my mom about it. She was like, yeah, like back then it was disgusting. In 13 states, interracial marriage was illegal, but they were forward thinking. God bless Hollywood. And Star Trek, they kind of invented the whole, and if you're a Trekkie fan, you're going to love this, but the Motorola flip phone, which is a technology product by the Motorola Corporation, which was in Chicago at the time. It was created because of Star Trek, when they said, beam me up, Scotty, to go up to the ship. And the reason they had beam me up was because Star Trek had a tight budget in the 1960s. They had the cancel the show, actually. Their budget was so tight that every time they showed the Enterprise, the big spaceship landing on a planet, it cost a lot of money. So instead they said, beam me up. So they didn't have to show that. But Motorola copied that. Then years later, what happened was Avatar, created the cool concept of swiping to screens. And after that movie, Apple created that with AirPlay or swiping from your iPad, the Apple TV, whatever. Okay, it's interesting. And then in 2002, I know I'm not going in order here, but there's a movie that had probably the biggest impact on user design in the history of Silicon Valley. And that movie was Minority Report with Tom Cruise. Remember that one? Great movie. Steven Spielberg. Awesome. And he created the whole concept of swiping and moving things around. And that was actually used in a lot of technology products we use today. The whole notion on Apple of swiping screens came from that movie. Okay. And then more recently, when it comes to the voice-based operating system, a movie that had a big impact was the movie Her, which is about Scarlett Johansson, perfect voice for that product. She is an operating system. It was out there, but it was about falling in love with an operating system, really out there, actually. But it was actually right. Voice is the future. And so Hollywood dreams these things up. And then years later, it becomes reality. And so I like to dream a lot, Faisal, when I watch movies. And I think about the future and what might be important in the future, that sort of thing. And for all you Fortnite players out there, okay, I'm getting all these alerts because my sons, they found out last night, and I'm sure a lot of you are happy because of this, that Fortnite now works across the PlayStation and the Xbox. You can play on both platforms, so I'm getting all these crazy alerts. Sorry, off topic. But hopefully, Faisal, I answer your question. The bottom line is think longer term. Think of what platforms are going to matter. And I'm going to quote Wayne Gretzky quickly because I'm Canadian. So Gretzky was the best hockey player ever. And when they asked him, why are you successful? He said, I was successful not because I skated to where the puck is, but rather I skated to where the puck is going to be. Basically, that means he had the foresight of looking forward. Okay, so always think of what investments are people going to like, not ones they like today, what are they going to like? Anyway, that was a long-winded answer. Sorry. You're welcome, Jason. Thanks. All right, Brandon, I love your question. I love the way you phrased it too. And if you have any questions, just please answer them here. When there's no more questions left, I'll wrap up the call. Thanks. And I will talk forever, by the way. I'll answer all your questions. This is fun. Okay. So Brandon's saying, what are my opinions on investing / gambling in stock options? Okay. So I used to work at a hedge fund. I did a lot of options. Okay. And for those of you who are not familiar with options, it's basically a way of doing two things. Number one, you can either protect your capital by making sure if a stock goes up or down, you'll still make money or not lose money. Or number two, an option will help you make a lot more money really quickly. So the thing with options is I'm not a big fan because I'm a very, very long-term investor. And within stock options, I guess I could buy leaps, which are like kind of like really, really long-term calls. I'm not a big fan. I just love buying and holding forever in companies that I like. If you're long-term focused, you'll do much, much better. And for those of you that transact in stock options, I love to use the word gambling because it is so Vegas, or Macau, I should say. It's dangerous, man. Just every penny that you invest in options, just understand you can lose every penny of it. Okay. But I think that a better way to use stock options or options in general is if you're trying to decrease your exposure to a certain sector just in case. And let me explain this. You'll all find this fascinating. After 9/11, there's this company called an airline company called Southwest, really big here in America. And the ticker is LUV, love, because that's their home base is Lovejoy Airfield, whatever. But what Southwest Airlines did was very predatory. Okay, what they did was oil was $30 at the time, and they bought these options so that they would lock in the price of oil for them at around $30 for a decade. So it didn't matter if the price of oil went up a lot. They used options, okay, in the commodities futures market to lock in the price of oil at $30. And then what Southwest did was brilliant and predatory at the same time. They then cut their ticket prices. And when the price of oil went up to $140 a barrel, the big airlines were all about to go bankrupt. American Airlines, Delta, Continental, etc. And what Southwest did with options is they kept the price of their tickets so low and even lower, right? Which almost forced a lot of the big other airline companies to go belly up. So I think that options are a good thing to use if you want to hedge your risks. So I don't know, maybe you work at a big technology company and your net worth is all based on stock options you're going to get in the future. Then maybe you should talk to a financial advisor about buying puts or betting against that sector just in case. Okay. Hopefully that answered your question, Brandon. Thank you. Oh, greetings from Poland. Have a nice day. Thank you. I have a lot of students in Poland. It's cool. It's awesome. By the way, somebody's got to make a movie on Lech Walesa. I mean, that guy changed the world. How can there not be a movie about that guy? Right. Anyway, next up, I've got that was me showing off that I know a politician in Poland. Okay, another question from Cassandra. Okay, I love it. Thank you, Cassandra. Okay, Tiger. Talking about trading options, what is the best broker when it comes to lower fees and good interface? Is it Tastyworks? I'm not familiar with Tastyworks, but what I'll say is this, and this is applicable to everybody all over the world. If you're using a large bank, meaning a top 5 bank in your country, which you probably are, and you're not sure which broker to use, I want you to call your bank and ask them which brokerage firm do they recommend you use that has lowest fees. And quite often they have a brokerage firm that is owned by that bank. They might be able to help you out in those terms. And I don't recommend ever having only one bank. Have multiple banks to keep your money at, just in case, right? And once you do that, call those multiple banks and ask them for the lowest price. You know, Schwab is pretty good, Tiger. I think you mentioned you're here. You're in Florida, right? I think so. Yeah. So Schwab is good. That's just one of many, though. Okay. E-Trade's another one as well. Okay. Thank you. All right. Next question I got. It seems the Fed will raise interest rates in the near term. Should I short bonds? I'm not going to. That's a great question. It's very valid. And the reason that that question is being asked by Kong is because what happens is when interest rates go up, bonds go down in price. I don't know. I don't know. I used to play around with the TLT, but be careful with that. Be careful with that. I'm not an expert in bonds, so I'm going to say honestly, I don't know. I don't know. And the Fed will continue to raise interest rates, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing because it signals that the economy is actually good. And governments usually raise interest rates in good times, okay, because they want to have enough bullets in the gun so that they can cut interest rates to jumpstart the economy in the future. Okay. Okay. You're welcome, Shiraz. Thank you. Oh, Shiraz, a Star Trek fan. They have such innovative ideas that are, yeah, totally agree with you, man. Thank you. Thank you. If you have more questions, everybody, please answer them now. When there's no more questions, I'll wrap it up. So another question from Dante. Okay, what's my perspective on jobs that will exist in the future but don't exist now? Wow. And what should we learn now to be better prepared for the future? Wow. Anything that has to do with, pardon me, with voice-based technology, I think that's the future. That's what I would say. That's what I would say. So anything voice-based or anything that has to do with virtual reality-based operating systems, right? VR is not there yet. And I get kind of sick when I try VR products out. So I think voice is probably better longer term. That's what I would say. Anything involving voice. The future operating system is one that we don't see, feel, or touch. It's voice. Which is why Amazon and Google are putting so much money, Apple too, into that sector. By the way, if you guys use Siri, change the voice to the Australian dude. It's better. I use the Australian woman. I'm sure Australian man as well, but it's just, I like it a lot better. It's cool. Because Australians, when they speak, it sounds like they're saying everything with a smile on their face. Okay. And your next question is, what do you learn to be better prepared for the future? Just keep up on technology trends. I don't teach tech stuff. The only tech course I kind of teach is cryptocurrencies. But keep up to date on technology trends as well. New programming languages, that sort of thing. And also, what I recommend, you guys will all love this, and gals, you'll love this one. Whoever you follow on Twitter, not me, but people that are really successful on Twitter, see who they're following, because that will tell you where they think the future is going to be. And so, for example, Bill Gates, and God bless him and Melinda for what they've done to the world, if you look at who Bill Gates is following, the only non-charity and non-Microsoft company that he follows is Udemy. So, maybe that's a signal Bill Gates thinks that, ed tech is the future, which I certainly believe. I'm really bullish on ed tech. And with Udemy, actually, it's so interesting because I worked at a venture capital firm, and one of my students worked at Udemy, and she said, "Chris, you have time to meet?" And I went to Udemy's headquarters, whatever. And I'm not just going to hype up Udemy. There's other ones too, okay? But I was so impressed with the business model and with ed tech in general that I wanted to go back and tell my partners, let's invest in this company. And I said, screw it, man. I'm quitting my job. This is what I'm doing the rest of my life, is teaching online. Anyway, so find out what other people follow. Okay. Who does Richard Branson follow on Twitter? Or who does, I don't know, J.K. Rowling follow, or whoever your idols are, and work hard so your idols become your rivals over time. Anyway, so that's what I would say. Okay, another question here. How do I build a platform which will enable and empower people? Wow. I say the best platform to build or to build upon is education, because you're empowering people. And the way that I think about my courses longer term on Udemy, and just longer term in general, is I think of all my courses as a platform. So one of my flagship courses called an entire MBA in one course, I think of that course as a platform. And within that platform, other courses will grow longer term. I don't know what they are yet, but that's what I think. For my other courses, my cryptocurrency course, I think of that course as a platform. And from that, other courses and other platforms will grow on that platform longer term. That's how I'm thinking about this. And longer term, I want to create my own degree, because a lot of companies are creating their own degrees now, their own education. Google, Apple, and other companies. You don't need a degree to work there anymore. Same thing with IBM. And one of my students last night on YouTube, I asked people to enter in their thoughts on the future of education, and I can't remember his name. I'm so sorry, but he had the most brilliant thought ever, which was, in the future, companies are going to offer degrees because you're going to join those companies and they're going to train you anyway, and so you'll kind of get certification there. So I want to create my own degree as well, longer term, and I don't know what yet, but I want to teach people things that, pardon me, they things that they aren't taught in school. I'm just going to get some water. Hold on. Things that they're not taught in school. I got to be careful with my voice because I'm giving a presentation on Saturday. Sorry. I better drink some coffee. Things that they're not going to be taught in school, like how to present, or how to find a job, or how to manage your personal money. How ridiculous is it, Dante, that we're not taught in school how to manage our own money, but we are taught how to manage other people's money or institutional money? It's different. So anyway, that's how I'm thinking about it. I don't know what the degree is going to be called. It'll probably be on Udemy or some platform. I have no idea, but it's something I want to do longer term. Anyway, maybe I'll do like an in-person one as well, where I'll fly people in to be part of it as part of a pilot program. And a lot of people on this webcast, what I'll probably do is, if I do this one day, you'll probably all get to do it for free as part of my first class. Anyway, we'll see here. And we'll crowdsource the whole content. You'll all help me one day, whatever. Oh my God, I talk a lot. Okay. Another question is from Jolinia. Jolinia. Am I pronouncing your name right? I'm sorry if I'm not. And welcome to the call. Hey, Chris, thank you for your work. Do you have any advice for a 30-year-old mother who wants to go back after a 2-year break? Oh, I love it. Network. And also see if you can find a job, if you want, where like me, you can work from home part-time. Okay, if you want. And my wife does this. My wife actually works at IBM, and she gets to work part of the time from home, and she loves it. It's great. I don't want to be that parent that didn't see my kids recitals or that didn't drive them to school. I drive my kids a couple mornings a week. We have neighbors that help us with the carpool. I would find a job where you can work from home part-time if you want, whatever your personal preference is. But the best way to do it is find a side hustle, find a couple jobs you can do on the side so that one of those side jobs turns into your passion longer term and you're not reliant on somebody else in the long run, okay? Start teaching online, for example. It's the most scalable business that's ever been created. And being a teacher is better than being a doctor or a lawyer because lawyers suck. It's true, unless you're a civil rights lawyer, I love you. And doctors and lawyers can only kind of service or have one patient at a time. If you're a teacher, you can have a billion students at the same time. And you can also profit all night long when you sleep, whatever. People buying your courses in other countries. I remember when I first started teaching on Udemy, I called my dad. I was so excited. I said, "Dad, you're not going to believe this. I made $35 last night when I was sleeping." And my dad didn't understand it. He said, "Then why did you wake up?" Anyway, so you can have side jobs there, but also try to network a lot too. And because this is the first time I've seen you on the call, I don't know if you know about this yet, but you can go to my website and get my networking book for free. Go to harounventures.com and download the book for free. It's 200 pages. We'll teach you how to network and how to get informational meetings and find people that have similar backgrounds to you and just network with them. And that's how you'll find a job, I promise you. And just when you go and you do those informational meetings, and this applies for everybody on this call, when you're interviewing to work at a company or you're meeting with a senior executive at your company or you're meeting with a potential customer, just have a conversation, be yourself, and they'll love you for being you. I mean, you've gotten this far in your life by being you. So why stop now? And senior executives feel really uncomfortable when you feel nervous around them. And I used to be like that. I used to get in the elevator and a senior executive was there. And you know, it's like you get in an elevator, all conversation stops. Everyone's kind of paranoid. It's weird. It's like a bad trip. But I'd be in an elevator and a senior executive would be there. And I'd think, okay, here's your chance, Chris. And I'd say, top of the morning to you, sir, or great weather today, or whatever it is. Just be yourself. And when you go for that informational interview, just be yourself, man, because people want to help you, people they like. Like, remember that time that you guys were all and gals were all so frustrated because you kept interviewing and you couldn't get a job? And then you went to that one interview and you're like, I just don't give a damn anymore. I don't care if I get this job. And you're just kind of yourself. And you opened up an interview and you got hired. When you network, have that mindset. Hopefully I answer your question. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let me see if we have any more questions. If we don't, I'm going to wrap it up here. Oh, here you go, Tiger. Thank you. And anybody has any questions, send them now or I'll wrap up the call. That wasn't a threat. I'll stay on this call forever until there's no more questions, that is. Okay, Cassandra's got a follow-up here. How far are you away from completing my business plan course? We are waiting. Oh, thank you. God bless you. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm working on it. I actually put it on the back burner for the past week or two, only because I've been working so hard on this presentation I'm going to be giving on Saturday in Brazil. But I will get back on it. I've got it on my laptop, which is right here. I was going to reach in for it. You guys are on my laptop, hey? And then on my flight back from Brazil, I'm gonna keep writing it, but it's going to be Excel spreadsheet based. So you're going to have Excel to take it. It's probably going to be, God, I'm buying time here. This is terrible. I'm rambling. Sorry. Probably October, November. That's what I'm thinking. And it's going to be a course that's never been made before. And I'm taking risks. I take a risk with all my courses. And you know, sometimes I'll make a risk and make the course too long and people will complain. So I'm trying to make this one not as long as the others. So probably October, November. Hold on. I got to sneeze. I'm going to put you on mute. It went away. I was trying to look up and the light didn't work. Sorry. Oh, you're one of my students. Thank you for the answer. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I don't see any more questions. And so if I don't get a question right now, and just type right now saying I'm writing a question if you want, and then write your question. Otherwise I'll wrap up the call here. Thank you very much, Cassandra. Appreciate it. God's feedback at you. Thank you. I can't wait to go. I'm going to go to, I'm actually taking a day trip. When I'm there, I'm paying for it personally to go to, like this company is paying for me to go down there and present, which is great. I'm not getting paid to present, but they're paying for the flight, which is nice. But I'm doing a day trip. I'm going to Rio, and I'll vlog from Rio as well, right by Christ the Redeemer, that beautiful sculpture. Okay, but I will be back in time for next week's webcast. I'm doing that on purpose. I'm flying tonight at 1 a.m. And then I fly back, and I will be back here in this room, so I can never miss this I will never miss this weekly webcast ever. Okay. Oh, another question. Here we go. Again, ask your questions here. I'll wrap it up. Another one from David. Hey, Dave, who published a great children's book, which I love. So David said, who, if any, is my greatest mentor? Oh, it's definitely my dad. Hands down, my father, definitely. And somebody asked me that question a couple of weeks ago on a webcast, and my dad was listening. I know my dad's not listening to this one for sure. I had no idea he was going to be listening. And my dad sent me a text during, I got a little bit teary. Definitely my dad. I mean, my dad came to Canada from Egypt in the late 60s. It was during the 67 war in Egypt, and he was like, "This is BS. I'm not going to fight a war. This is ridiculous, whatever." And so he bribed an army official to fail the eye physical for the war. And he tried to come to America. He couldn't get in. He came to Canada. Thank God. And he came to Canada. Sorry, I'm just thinking about my dad, how much I love him. And he worked in a hospital cleaning test tubes, and nurses and everybody made fun of his accent. And he was so frustrated by this. And he basically said, screw it. And he started his own company. And I'm never bragged, but I have to brag about my dad. And I know he's not listening to this, but he came with nothing. He started a company with 300 employees, 35 offices. He's a doctor. He's amazing. He's amazing. And everybody that's ever worked for him has always said nice things. I've learned everything from him, but a lot of my vlogs are based on feedback I learned from my dad. Little things like my dad used to say to me, oh, Brandon, it was you that asked that question a couple weeks ago. God bless you, Brandon. Thank you. Thank you. That's an event I'll never forget about the rest of my life. My dad sent me a text. It was on my iPad here during that. Thank you, Brandon. God bless you. God bless you, David, and everybody in this call, Cassandra too, everyone. But no, my dad says little things, little quotes, and ask your parents for advice. And if there's ever somebody older than you, sit down with them, ask them for advice. I love sitting down with older people. And I used to do it all the time. I used to go to Starbucks, and a lot of times there was older people, and they'd have a hat on that said World War II and the name of a ship they were on. And I'd always go up to them. And, if my kids are around, I'd make sure my kids thank them, we live in freedom now because of them. But I love sitting down with them and just asking them questions. And, what was it like in World War II? Or, where did you go? Like that sort of thing. And just ask for advice from people that are older while they're still around. Just ask for advice. And my dad would say little things to me growing up, like, Chris, don't ever take a shortcut you've never taken before when you're in a hurry. And it was prophetic. It was brilliant. And you know what I'm talking about, right? You ever been late for something and you take a shortcut you never taken before and you end up later? Little things like that. Very prophetic. And I have a lot of friends that grew up in China, and I always ask them, what did your parents tell you? And they always had the most prophetic quotes. And a lot of them were quotes from Confucius, when one teaches to learn, or whatever it might be, or even older people in America. They always, have a lot of Mark Twain quotes. The two most important days in your life are the number one, the day you're born, and number two, the day you find out why. So anyway, those are my mentors. But I have virtual mentors too, like Tony Robbins. And I got to meet Tony Robbins too. That was larger than life. He's a big guy, man. His neck is like that big. And he's the real deal too. And I didn't meet him at an event. I met him somewhere else. Although I did go to one of his events, and I encourage all of you to go to that. Cassandra, I think you're based in Florida now. Cassandra is Tiger, right? Yeah. And Tony Robbins, he moved from California to Florida recently for tax reasons. Smart guy. But he does a lot of events in Florida. So Cassandra, and this goes to everybody, I guarantee you, if you go to his 4-day event called UPW, or Unleash the Power Within, wherever you are in the world, he comes to your country, You probably will, or come to America and see it here. It'll change your life. And what it basically is this: Tony Robbins, he read 800 self-help books when he was young, and his course is kind of a greatest hits. His earlier course is greatest hits of that stuff. And he also has a lot of his own content, obviously, but it was a life changer for me. And I went to his conference. One of my clients had an extra ticket. It was the fall of 2015. And I went to his conference, and it was a 4-day event. Thanks, Willem. It was a 4-day event, Tony Robbins events. And one day we had to walk on fire, on coals, and you don't feel it. He conditions you not to feel it. And it was electric, and I didn't feel it. And then that night I was up half the night because I had blisters on my feet. I took like 4 or 5 Advils, anyway, whatever. But that event changed my life. And I've been, every 2 years I would do Tony Robbins program. I had it on tape, then on CD, now downloadable, since the mid to late 90s. I write down my goals every 2 years. I go through that program with him. And then he did something which changed my life on the 4th day of that 4-day event. And please go to it. It costs a bunch. It'll cost you $1,000, maybe a little bit more, but I promise you it'll change your life, and it's worth more than any degree you'll ever get. But what he did was he made us write down our goals on the 4th day. But he did something different. And I've done a lot of goal setting workshop. He made us write down deadlines. And a lot of people will write down their goals, but they won't write down a deadline when they're going to achieve these goals by. And that's why a lot of people that have New Year's resolutions to lose weight or whatever, they give up on them after a couple of weeks because they didn't write down a deadline. So when you come up with goals, just write down a deadline as well. And I did that because I was writing this book of mine called 101 Crucial Lessons They Don't Teach in Business School for years. I meet with Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, then I write down, okay, what did they say? What did I say? Whatever. And then what I did was when I was at that conference on the Sunday, I wrote down, okay, Tony told us to write down our goals, but also when we're going to accomplish them by. And I was like, okay, 3 weeks, I guess. And I came back, and that was a Sunday night. And then Monday morning, I went back to work. And I was at work, and I just wasn't feeling it. And my partners in the venture capital firm, they were so patient with me. My God, I love them. They're so patient with me. But I left at noon. They said, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going to go home. And I didn't show up to work for a little while. And I was at home for 3 days. And I remember because Christine was away. She was in New York on business. And within 3 days, I'd written my book. And I wrote it from my heart. And I published it. And I'm humbled to say that Forbes magazine wrote an article saying that my book called 101 Crucial Lessons They Don't Teach in Business School is it's one of 6 books every entrepreneur needs to read, along with that book written by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, and Peter Thiel's book as well. And whatever, I was just so humbled by it. And anyway, so I can't even remember what the question was. So sorry. Oh yeah, mentors. And I just I follow my passion. And when I'll tell you why I teach on Udemy too. So a lot of you have probably taken that course of mine called an entire MBA in one course. And this is how it happened. So I was actually I was in January 2016. I'm on the board of this place called the Limo Foundation. We help these poor kids that have deadbeat fathers, whatever, in East Palo Alto, where the high school graduation rate's only 40%. Typical American area, like here, because you're in very rich areas, and a block away, you're in harder areas to live in. And I taught all these kids one Saturday for 12 hours straight. And they were between the ages of 9 and 17. And every second that I was teaching them, and I thought, I'm going to teach them everything they need to know, life skills, in one day. And I'm going to call it, I don't know, an entire MBA in one day or one course. And they were paying attention the whole time because nobody pays attention to them. Right? They have no father figures or life. It's hard, man. And that day changed me. And the next day was Sunday, and I used to go in the prison system and help these poor kids out just through the church. It's not a religious thing, whatever. And then that day I put it up for 8 hours straight, and I recorded an entire MBA in one course. And I remember I did it. My hair was darker then. I've been gray since I was a kid, right? So that's why it's a bad hair day. And look at this here. I'm starting to go bald here. That's why I actually kind of brushed it over this way here. But my hair, I used too dark hair dye whatever, that day. And I put the course online. And then the next day, Business Insider wrote an article about it, and it went it went really well. And I think it was kind of, I don't know, it's prophetic. Give and you'll receive, that sort of thing. I'm so sorry for rambling there. But in terms of mentors, Tony Robbins. Um, anyway. Okay. All right. Let me keep reading. Dave. Oh, I love this. If you have quotes from your dad or your mom or your grandparents, please enter them right now. Please. You're helping me. Please help me. Enter the quotes, and I'd love to hear what they are, because I love these quotes, especially if you're born overseas. Okay. It doesn't matter. Just enter them in. All right. So Dave's got one here. My father always said to me, watch your pennies and your dollars will follow. It's so true. It's so true. I remember I used to go for a walk with my dad when I was a kid, and I remember there's a nickel on the ground. He picked it up, and he looked at me and he goes, 20 of these make $1. So little things like that. Thanks, Dave. All right. And then, Benjamin Franklin said that quote. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And Tiger, I'm so sorry. Cassandra says, I had a great dad. He died in 2016. God bless him. I'm so sorry you went through that. He was a great thermo genetic engineer. He had this great idea that the monetary system should be a joule unit for energy. He wrote to the prime minister in Canada and to the White House. I never had a chance to help my father with his great idea. Cassandra, let's do this. Let's make that idea a reality now. Let's do it. Let's do it. Think about it. If cryptocurrencies, like that was such an esoteric concept, were kind of units to buy and sell things, and it's virtual, why not energy units as well? And it kind of happens today with carbon credits, right? It's Al Gore talked about this too, before he invented the internet. Just kidding. But Al Gore talked about this as well in his movie, Inconvenient Truth. But there's no reason you can't do it. So instead of going right to the prime minister or the president, Cassandra, go to your local MP. Okay, or actually, you're in the United States. You're a congressperson. Okay, they're there to help you. They got elected because of you. Call them. Okay, call them. Actually, go to their office locally there in Florida and meet with them. They are there to help you. Okay, so make it happen. And I'm so sorry that you went through that with your father. And with my kids, my youngest son Dylan, God, he said such prophetic things. When he was 4, he let a red balloon go outside our backyard, and he said, "Bye-bye, balloon. I'll see you in heaven." He also said this, which broke my heart. When my grandmother passed away a couple of years ago, and one day he said, like a week or two after the funeral, he said, "Dad, can we FaceTime Grandma?" And I said to him, "Oh, honey, that she can't." And he said, "Can we FaceTime Grandma?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I want to see what heaven looks like." So anyway, I thought that was adorable. But all right, let's see here. And I'm so sorry for rambling there. But Tiger, do it, okay? Everything should measure how much energy you spend in service. Go for it. Go for it. Make it happen. Make it happen. And you know what? That's what the railroad companies did as well with futures contracts. That's why futures contracts exist, right? Because commodities, the price of cotton in the future is locked in, because what would happen is delivery. They would go over the railroad tracks. It would take a couple days to ship commodities. And they would say, okay, here's what I think the price is going to be in the future of commodities by the time you get it through railroad. That's why the market exists. A little trivia for you there. Okay, one of my favorite quotes from Brandon here. Love all, trust a few, do wrong to no one. So true, man. I love it. If you walk around with love in your heart, and Mother Teresa said that, I love this quote. I'm going to butcher like I always do, but Mother Teresa said, I never judge people because it takes away from time that I could be spent loving them. Amazing. Or if you, anyway, sorry. It's a great quote. I love it. And trust a few. It's so true, man. It's hard. I don't trust as many people as I used to. What happens, and Cassandra, when you make this energy product of yours globally, and the whole world finds out about it, and you're much more successful than you even are today, you're going to have people that will criticize you. And unjustified criticism is nothing more than a disguised compliment. And I find that the older you get, the harder it is to make friends. When I was younger, God, it was so much easier to make friends. Things are complicated now. And even with, careful what I say, but when we go out with other couples, my wife and I, there are a bunch I love, but it's so hard when you're going out with other couples because it's kind of like you're dating them. The chance that I get along with the man and the woman, it's so low. But anyway, I'm gonna stop right now. Okay. All right. Let's see if I have any more questions. If not, I'm gonna wrap it up. All right. Looks like we are done. The last one I've got here is Brandon. I want to thank you all for your time today. And by the end of tomorrow, within 24 hours or so, we're going to have this whole thing written up, so you can go to the description field and just click on any question like we've done the past 6 weeks and jump right to the answer. I want to thank you all for your time. I'll have an update on Brazil next Thursday for all of you. God bless you all. This has been the best one so far. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.